And the kickoff begins this
What up?
Monday. How's everybody?
What's going on, brother? How
Oh,
are you?
it's good to be back. I think today is our first normal stream. How's everyone doing? Brian, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, man? I gotta say, in front of everybody, I miss you, bro.
Oh,
You know, we hang
I
out
miss you
for six
too.
days or whatever it is. We're eating every meal together. I get home, I'm like, wow, kind of lonely here. The kids are like, hey, I'm like, get out of here. I miss my boy. How's everybody doing?
Oh, yeah.
We did
I'm
have
doing
we did have a
great.
stream once we got home, right? We did have
We
one. What we
did,
have
but it's
like
kind of like a
us.
CES wrap up. This is our first
Yeah.
non-CES related stream.
Yep.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
And saying a big hello to everyone. Oh, look, Caleb Loves Tech is on. Hey, Caleb.
What's
I hope
up,
you had a good
Caleb?
weekend. Hope all
Yeah, it
is
was
good
great
with
to
you,
see.
my friend.
Always great to see Caleb at these events, man. It's like we bumped into him as he's filming and bumped into his camera guy. It was really good to see him. What's up, everyone? How's everybody? Lisa, what's up, Getty G, man?
Oh,
How's everybody
everyone
doing?
is here. I love it. And Classy's here. And you know what?
What's up,
Speaking
Classy?
of Classy, Classy. Every time I see him, I'm thinking, oh, wait, time for our public service announcement. And I'm going to have to run, before we do paradigm shifts for TV buyers in 2024, I'm just going to
Yep.
throw this out there in case our friends at Sony are watching. So, Sony A95L, the flashing red lights of death. And this is something that goes beyond what if you want to know what issues are on the Sony A95L, watch Classy's review, right? He lists the things that he's happy and unhappy with, but that's just more of a TV that's early in its stages. Firmware may or may not fix certain things, but this is more of a quality control issue, I think. So I went through the AVS forums, right? And specifically, there's a lot of posts here, and I'm just going to show this quick for him. So SD shared his issue, and it affects not just the 77-inch. It appears to affect 77-inch TV sizes the most. And let me put this up there real quick. And so a lot of people are complaining that their 77-inch, 65-inch, and even 55-inch in some cases, the red flashing at the bottom of their TV, they'll be watching and then suddenly it'll start flashing, which is an indicator that at some point in the near future, their TV is just going to die. Brick will not even turn on. Now, there are many theories why this is happening. It's clearly not software, it may be a hardware issue, but ultimately, the suggestion is if you're seeing red lights flashing your TV, right there, it's an indicator there's something wrong, right? So, Sony TVs, if it's just red and it's not flashing, then it's just a status light. It's on basically. But if it's flashing, right, it's like, oh my gosh, it's like, why is it flashing like that? Um, Pay attention. Call Sony support and tell them, hey, this red light's flashing. What does it mean? They might tell you to swap it. Now, if you're within the return window at Best Buy, you may want to swap it anyway. But again, this is something that I suggest you just read through the owner's forum on AVS forum. And there appears to be a lot of people talking about it. I haven't had it personally on my TV. It's not like widespread where everyone's having it, but enough people are having it. They're posting it as a complaint on the owners forum. So I just wanted to make sure that we just mentioned that so that in case Sony is watching, they can say, oh yeah, we're we know it's whatever. And I don't think it's going to be fixed with a firmware necessarily. Maybe it could be, but again, if you see red lights flashing, just keep that in mind. But what are your thoughts on that, Brian? Have you ever had the red flashing lights of death?
Is my audio okay? Because my headphones just died. Can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you fine, buddy.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, the red flashing thing is not a new thing. I had that in 2017 with the 900E. So that is their indicator that the TV's restarting. That's kind of their reset up. So back then it was just going through the menus too fast would cause the TV to reboot. I don't know what's happening now, and we can reach out to Sony and reach out to Robert and those guys and see what they say. I
Definitely.
haven't asked about it because we've been away. I haven't heard a lot about it, but it still happens.
And this is a reminder for everyone who are buying expensive TVs thinking, hey, I'm guaranteed a winner. It's still a panel lottery. You may still
So,
get a dud, even if you buy the king of TVs, and it was like almost $5,000, the 77-inch at launch, right? So no guarantees.
if Caleb is still in the chat too, because he remembers this. When I first started YouTube and you and I met, I had, I tried spending my way out, and the TV I ended up going to the top was the KS 9800. It was 78 inches. It was $10,000. And I got it for like 10,000, and it still had terrible DSC, horrible backlight problems, and I ended up with a 900E. So money does not help anything. You're still going to have DSC at really large TVs that are expensive. You're going to have a lot of problems. Money means nothing as far as quality in a lot of ways. And they're still mechanical, and we're all still gathering here, so it's still a small population. It's just we all hang out. What's up, Steve?
Yeah. And so people are starting to share, hey, I had problems with Sony. And this is just to say every TV brand. And I know Samsung gets the most vitriol. Oh, my Samsung. It's because Samsung sells the most TVs. So that's why you see the most complaints, right? But what I want to look at normally is what's the percentage of failure? Let's say, as a percent, 0.5% is very good in the industry. But 0.5% of the number one volume sales in the world, you're going to have a lot of people, right? So ultimately, and this is opinion I've taken for quite a while now. I say for the last 2 years, I highly recommend buying a TV with some kind of extended warranty when you're paying this much. It's $2,000. You're paying extra few hundred. This is great because if you're out of warranty, and the Sony, after a year, it is out of warranty unless you buy at Best Buy and you're a member and you get that 2-year, right? But if you're buying from Amazon and you're buying extended warranty, after a year, you see the red flash of death and you're like, oh, wait, what do I do now? Any minute now, my TV's going to go and you're out of warranty, right? I mean, go quickly, add your homeowner's warranty and hope it covers your TV. But ultimately, it's just something that before I never suggested getting extended warranty on any home appliance, right? Because normally if it fails within the first 60 days, 90, right?
That was the way it is.
Now it's like, oh man, I don't know. After 18 months, it's so expensive. I'm not buying, well, I mean, I do get a new TV every 18 months, but most of you are hoping to hold on to it for at least 4 years, right? And now let me ask you, right? Are you an extended warranty guy?
I'm not. But then again, I think when it comes to me, you, and anybody who does what we do, that's probably the one place where we're actually poor indicators. Other than testing the TVs very hard, we don't watch them the way you guys do. And the one drawback to being a reviewer or whatever the heck we are, we don't watch nearly as much content as you guys do. So in terms of longevity, I mean, my C1 has nowhere near as many hours as your TVs do. So mine all operate fine because like the A80L behind me doesn't even have a few hundred hours on it. So other than what you see flashing behind you, they don't get used the same way.
So, that would be great if your TV started flashing. Brian, I see it.
Oh, crap, I gotta go.
Stop.
Hey, wait a minute. Are these red rings? I'm on camera right now.
Gotta get on tech support.
As far as us stressing them, other than what ratings does, which is go thousands of hours, I can't simulate. Someone says to me, so Brian, how about Hisense for longevity? I'm like, I don't know how many years we got. I only have right now. So I'll let you know in 5 years. It's tough though.
And as you can see, let me put up this. I'm going to run my banners now. So if you guys have any questions, if I miss your questions, I'm going to try and find it because we're going to go through a lot of stuff. So, keep on asking because sometimes I see a question flash by and I forget to get back to it. I apologize. Now, I do see one question I'll hit before we jump on because these are the questions I like to see every now and then, right? Cedric asks, what 2024, I can't talk today. What 2020, okay, I have to say, I bit my tongue during lunch. And so now the left side of my tongue is slightly swollen. It's very difficult to speak. What 2024 TV should I buy for my Xbox Series X? I don't know because we don't know how these TVs perform as a top of the line gaming TV. But generally speaking, let us know what your budget is. Obviously, you have the obvious TVs that are always good. If it's in the LCD, it's the Samsung LCD TVs. QLED are very good for Xbox. In the OLED, I'm a big fan of the S90C, even though it's a 2023 model. S89C, also a 2023 model. Both will kill it on the Xbox. Now, Xbox, I believe, supports Dolby Vision gaming, but I don't think it's a big deal this year. Or you can go with LG OLEDs that also supports Dolby Vision gaming if that's important to you. But for 2024 TV, it's a bit early to say this is the best one or not. So I'd hold off until we see the TVs. But do you have any early leads, Brian, for a 2024 TV Xbox Series X owners?
For me, the can't miss already is the G4. So the G4 is the TV's established with MLA. It's going to be brighter. It's going to probably, it's got more as far as its certification with VRR and G-Sync and all that. I mean, to me, that's the most solid one. I can't get behind this S95 matte finish. I know we have a tech therapy video coming up on it. So for me, the one that I know is true is going to be LG G4. Is going to be your can't miss. Expect more of the same, but better. And that's my go-to for, especially if you want a larger size. But it's hard to recommend the C series but we don't know what the S90 is going to be. So if the S90 is a step forward, that answers that. If it's a step back, then the C series comes back in. So we have to kind of let some of these storylines play out. But for me, the one true contender right now, without fail, is going to be the G4 because of the new processor and it's just brighter. So that's the can't miss.
Agreed. And there's this. I'm going to get to the super chat real quick, just because it flashed in front of me. Thank you, Redman, for the super chat. Hi all. I'm curious about something. I bought a 4K Blu-ray that's advertised DTS audio and HDR. However, when redeemed the digital code on Apple, it was Dolby Atmos and Dolby Vision.
Welcome to barriers. Welcome to handshakes.
And you know what? That is funny. So obviously the Blu-ray disc has DTS audio and HDR, but as you know, Apple, the digital code on, so you have Apple. I'm curious to see what the movie, how you have the other one, the movie one, I forgot what it's called now, that you can redeem it on Apple, you can redeem it on the movie, whatever it is. I think that one went out of business or something like that. I don't know. But Apple does what it will do. And not only that, if you redeem it on Apple, you might even get the 3D version, right? Because they're making everything 3D capable. So Apple will do what it will do, and you have no control over it. Now, are you complaining, or are you saying, yes, I have Dolby Atmos and Dolby Vision, right? Or are you saying, yo?
It's a pain. Well, then you had the TVs that weren't doing pass-through, and it was a real pain. So, I mean, I don't get as caught up on that anymore. If it's good, it's good. But as long as it's not Dolby Digital, you'll be okay.
Yeah. And this, I think, and thank you again, Redman, for the super chat. Seek has a comment that I will have to refer to again later, because we will talk about 3D content. That is part of our breaking boundaries in 2024. We thought 3D was dead. We're going to talk about that. But let's jump into this one. Brighter TVs chasing 4,000 nits. Now, at the beginning of CES, Sony, or right before CES, Sony announced, hey, 4,000 nits is a thing. We're going to create a whole new TV flagship. Definitely, it's capable of 4,000 nits. Why 4,000 nits? Because our mastering monitor is capable of 4,000 nits, which means that if it's graded to native 4,000 nits on that new mastering monitor, then your TV should be able to do it without any tone mapping if it can hit 4,000 nits. So Sony's making this announcement. And at CES, suddenly you have all these TVs brighter than 4,000 nits, right? You have the flagship from TCL 5,000 nits, you have the flagship from Hisense 10,000 nits, and then you have these incremental upgrades. The U8 and the QM8, I suspect, are around 3,000 nits. You have 3,000 nits from LG Display, Samsung Display. You have all these. Suddenly, brightness wars is back. And you and I remember last year, it's already bright enough. What content
We're
is
about
out
1,000
there,
nits,
right?
that's all you need. We've already had hit back on that, and actually we had the Samsung rep hit us back because we were talking about the matte finish, and he was like, "Look, man, typically most content is 1,000 nits." And Fomo raises his hand. He goes, "Did you not see the Sony press?" And he's like, "Well, I love this conversation because I know we're going to talk a little bit more about it. I did a video or interview with Rob Brennan." So 4,000 nits is the target and the reasoning because the reference monitor that these companies or Hollywood executives or studios want is 4,000 nits. So what he's trying to say is we're delivering 4,000 because it's got a distinct purpose. This 5,000, 10,000 nits, as much as I'm glad it's there, will not show up. So the reason it never showed up before is we didn't have the content. But now we're going to have the content. You're still going to be stuck at 4,000 nits. You're not going to see 10,000 nits. So his point was even zones without the proper drivers, the TVs eventually become direct lit because they're so mashed together, you cannot control them without the drivers. So it's very interesting how why I think Sony is legit is their TV is trickling down within the same year, hopefully, instead
Yeah,
of down the road. So they're building the TV and the reference monitor together, where Hisense and TCL are just brute forcing. You got 10,000 nits, I got 15,000 nits. It's
yeah.
not going to mean a damn thing. So that's going to be interesting. I'm excited they're doing it, FOMO, but because they're going higher, they're going back to what we are talking about 4,000 nits before without content. So it really doesn't mean a lot. It'll be capped at $4,000.
Well, so this takes us to, is this future proof, right? Because a lot of people will be asking, and they're starting to ask right now, when I upgrade my TV, should I be concerned about how bright it can get, but at a slightly smaller size, or go larger and not worry about the brightness? Because it's kind of like it's the price point where you can't have it both ways. $2,000, 98-inch, but maybe $2,000 gets you a 65-inch super bright TV, but it's only
Yeah.
65-inch, but it's capable of, and I'm going to make this up. Let's say it's the next Sony Mini LED. It's around $2,000 on Black Friday. Again, speculating, but let's say Sony flagship 65-inch Mini LED, 2000 Black Friday, or go 98-inch S5, not capable of anything more than 1,000 nits, maybe 1,200 nits, if that. How will you make that recommendation? Which one is really future-proof?
So
And
I think, yeah, we're getting to that
yeah,
point now, FOMO. We said this together is the TVs are so affordable at these large sizes and the quality so much better. It used to be you're choosing a plasma or a sharp, cheap 70-inch. Now your cheaper, larger TV is so close to the smaller one. And then you have your S90s, you have your TVs that are cheaper. You really can get what you want at any size. So I would always go larger if you don't compromise the picture quality. And there are those choices now.
yep. And I have to say that's pretty impressive. $2,000 gets you now this S5 is 2,000. It's not like flagship, but at 98 inches, that's a flagship size in terms of immersion, right? So,
Yeah.
oh wow, it's good to be a TV buyer in 2024, I think. Nick asked a great question because that takes me to the next discussion. Sharp QDEL is better than micro LED because Nick asks, did we get a chance to see the QDEL, which is quantum dot electroluminescent, that Caleb previewed, right? And this is something that I want to address because although I didn't see it, it was shown and then quickly hidden. I spoke to Nanosys about this. I said to Nanosys, hey, where's the heads up on this, right? I was on
Where'd
my
it
way
go? Yeah.
out. We were in the airport, and they're like, yeah, it was
Yeah.
a last minute thing.
Yeah. Come
They
on back.
decided to show it off, right? And then Sharp quickly went back into the dungeon and hid again. But it will be shown off this spring at the
Yeah.
display week, and I'll be there. And I know Caleb's going to come back, and we're going to have fun. So let's talk about quantum dot electroluminescent. So the quantum dots are now self-emissive, right? You're no longer using a backlight or anything in the back that energizes the quantum dot color converting layer, like QD OLED, OLED blue, and then you have quantum dot color converters. In this QDEL, every pixel, red, green, blue, is a quantum dot that's self-energizing, self-emitting, right? And what they've seen is that when you do that, it is a wider gamut than anything out there currently. It's a wider color gamut than quantum dot OLED, and it's a wider color gamut than micro LED. That's why I said Sharp QDEL is better than micro LED. Well, it might not be brighter, so I guess it's arguable. What do you mean by better? QDEL should have a wider color gamut, and as far, beyond that, though, we don't know how well it will perform because it's still in its prototype phase. But we do know that in its current stage, its color gamut is like record breaking, apparently. But micro LED will be brighter, probably. So it depends on what you want. And we're still a few years away. The discussion right now is QDEL appears to be it will be kind of like a creator's choice. It's great for colors, this and that. But for HDR peak brightness, we really don't know. That's something we'll ask Sharp and Nanosys this spring. How bright is the ceiling? But one thing is for sure, it's not organic. But it doesn't mean it's more stable than organic. Just because something isn't organic doesn't mean it's not unstable because This is still in its early stages. We want to see how the lifetime is and how the brightness is over time. Does it dim? But it is definitely welcome because it's an all new technology that pushes other technologies to do better to stay relevant. But I'm pretty excited. Brian, are you excited about QDEL?
I definitely am. But I would say this: we've been covering micro LED for the last 6 years, 7 years. We've been waiting for it. QDEL, as promising as it is, we have our eye more on what's in front of us this
Mhm.
year, next year. That's why even
Yes.
the blue OLEDs and things like that. When So, I'll give you an example. When we saw the prototype from Sony, the only reason why you guys got a video on it is because it's very close and it's real and it'll be a TV. I would not have even done a video on it if it was something that was pie in the sky. Just
Right.
because, Fomo, you've been to like car shows. You spend this time on these prototypes that can fly and you never see them. They're cool, but until I see something that is more tangible that we can give to you guys, I won't really cover it that much. I think it's a cool concept, but it's so far away. So
Yeah,
I'm not even really
it is.
contemplating it because even micro LED, we've hit the ball around the court a million times, and it's just not realistic yet. I'll still do a
And
micro
they've
LED
already,
video because I love the way they look. But
yeah.
go ahead.
And they've already announced it'll start in the smaller sizes anyway. We're talking for
Yeah,
PC monitors, for creatives. So we're talking 28-inch, 32-inch to start. So don't expect it to hit TVs anytime soon. And jumping on to our next, bigger is better. Taurus, thank you for the super chat and the segue. I'm size limited to a 50-inch max TV. Room has no windows, so usually it's dark. So 48-inch A90K OLED or 50-inch QN90C QLED, 55-inch won't fit. Wow,
well,
that's a
that's a
small
tough
room.
spot.
That's a
Yeah,
small. It reminds me of Scott Coakley. Movies and sports opinions. Okay, you have light control, right?
You hate to say go for size at 50. It's hard to
Yeah,
say
I
for
can.
immersion.
Uh, with light control, but then the A90K, can you get maybe a 48-inch C3? Because I think the A90K, even though it's in a dark room, it feels like the A90K is a bit dim given what's available now. At the 48-inch size, you have the C3, right? Which
Yeah,
would be giving you better specular highlights, at least in the A90K. There's nothing in the 50-inch size in OLED. Now, the Q90C 50-inch, I don't know how your region does the 50-inch Q90C,
yeah.
but is it IPS or not even IPS? I don't know if it's VA. I mean, it's so crazy that the other sizes are. It's so hard for me to recommend a Q90C when I know the 48-inch C3 may be available.
Yeah.
You might want to wait for the C4 at the 48-inch size to come out anyway this year. And great for movies and sports. What do you think, Brian?
Does the A90K even have XR clear?
Nope. Nope,
No.
definitely not.
Then
No.
you're paying. It's A90K, I believe. Oh, it's from the year before. Yeah,
Yeah.
A90K was a weird TV because it wasn't the A90J. It wasn't a Master Series. Where the A9S the year before was a Master Series. You're going to pay Master Series prices. Yeah, I would think something like a C3, even a C2 if you can dig it up. If they have those sizes, I'd go with that. I have a hard time with Samsung with those sizes because the panels are so different. And you're going to be in a dark room, then go with an OLED. There's no reason to even have the conversation. That LED will suffer greatly in a dark room. As we know, Samsung flattens out the blacks, so you'll see a lot of gray blacks when blooming shows up on screen. So easily an OLED, but I would go with a C series if you can.
Yeah. I think so. I think you'll do better with a current year C
Yeah,
series.
because now
And jumping
you're chasing the Sony just because it's a Sony. Don't do that.
right. And this kind of continues to segue into our mini LED discussion. Redmond 50, thank you for the super chat, asks, a friend of mine loves my A95K. So that's Sony's King of TVs from 2022, QD OLED, but is considering the U8K, which is a mini LED at 55 inches. The price difference is $900. That's a huge price difference, by the way. I wouldn't say the Sony is worth 900 more for what he watches, all 4K physical media. So this is a great discussion because the U8K looks phenomenal with high quality content. It's when you have to upscale and image processing comes into
Oh,
play.
A95K, gotcha. Okay.
Right. This is the Hisense U8K. I think the Hisense U8K is a pretty good TV, but for what he watches, all 4K physical media, $900 is a lot of money. So I'm not
I
shopping with
think
someone else's money. I'd save the money personally because I think the impact of the U8K is great. But Brian, do you agree? You're
no
thinking
way.
keep
I
going?
don't think they're even on the same planet. I love the U8K, but you're out of your mind. It's not the different. The picture quality is worth $900.
All right, there you
Are they
go.
the same size? They're the same size.
Yes.
Yeah, if they're the same size, it's not close. If you're going for like a 55-inch and it's $900 more, but to me, the A95K is miles ahead better than the U8K at the same size. Now you want to go 65-inch U8K? Here's my thing. I would do this: ditch the 55-inch U8K and get yourself a 65-inch U8K, which will eat into the price. You'll still save money. Then we can talk. But at the same size, they're not in the same universe. They're just not.
So
I
I,
mean,
I
they're
like where I like where you just mentioned bigger mini LED, and it's still cheaper than a very good
it's still cheap.
OLED.
But I mean, don't get it twisted. The U8K is awesome, but if you're going to go with OLED, you have to go bigger if you're going to compete with
Mhm.
it. Especially the A95K is a Master Series. It doesn't have XR clear, but its upscaling is still superior, and it's a gorgeous TV. The build quality, everything is amazing. U8K is great, but you got to go up larger if you're gonna, and you'll still save $200. But
Now,
do not think you're gonna get the same picture quality. And as bright as the U8K is, again, as Fomo said, you get into that low bitrate content, you get into some challenging scenes, the processing is going to let you
well,
down.
you know what? Let me throw this out. Didn't we say that the G3 would have beaten the A95K last year if it wasn't for the A95L? I'm sure the G3 is within that $900 price difference. Why don't we throw in a 55-inch G3? What would
You
you
got to buy a
choose?
stand. You got to buy a stand.
That's true. You gotta buy a stand.
You got to
Oh,
lose your money.
LG.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's
and
true.
then look for a lot of you guys out there. This is what's going to. I know FOMO's going to get into this, but the comebacks of mini LED is amazing. And I know a lot of you guys are like, oh, wait, why are we going back to that? But yes, you want to. But again, pound for pound, at the same size, they will not compete. Now, these new things from Sony are designed to compete because their local dimming is just so much more intricate. It's not because it's brighter. 4,000 nits is not why that prototype is amazing. It's the local dimming that's incredible.
Here's a great question because you deal with
Grammar?
Best Buy open boxes. Breimer Hammer is a great question. S89C is a Best Buy exclusive model because it is QD OLED. It is 77 inches, but it's missing one or two cosmetic items. Maybe the audio might not be as good as the S90C, but image quality is identical. And I think Classy has tested it, and it's like basically same image quality. Should I buy it? So it's open box. If you can get that with the extended warranty for 2 years to cover it, definitely buy it. Like get at least some warranty that gives you peace of mind that after a certain amount of time, it's open box, you're gonna discover things that you didn't discover while you were kind of expecting it at the
Yeah.
store. Now, he's going from 75-inch X95K to the S89C. So this is something. The X95K has will have visible blooming. It will not have the contrast, and it's not necessarily brighter in HDR content. However, in sports, it will be brighter. It will preserve that brightness. So if you're watching hockey in the X95K, the S89C will not preserve that hockey brightness in their sports modes, right?
No.
So if you watch a lot of sports in standard on the X95K, you're going to notice the S89C being dimmer. But if you're
Yeah.
watching only HDR content, they're very similar. I'd love for you to go with the S89C. But how much of an improvement is that? Because he's currently at 75, he's going to 77. I,
So yeah.
I really don't want him to go to another 1500, right?
No,
Maybe
and
not.
Brandmer, I think the question, and FOMO and I always say this: if you're asking me the question, you're currently not happy with the X95. If you're looking to upgrade it already, then it's
Or
only,
is it just FOMO? He's missing out on
or you just have FOMO. But
QDEL.
I'll tell you about open box, because I've sent back TVs when I was going through my things years ago, and every one of the TVs I sent back with dead pixels, banding, black light problems, they were all there as open box. I watched my own TVs be there as open box. No notes on them for dead pixels. No, there's no refurbished. There's no nothing like that. So there are degrees. Like I bought an S9, an Ultra tablet, and they have degrees on computers, as new, close to new. They don't really have that for TVs. So just know that you have to be careful, get the extended warranty, because that thing was brought back for a reason. Smaller TVs are brought back because somebody chose the wrong size. It's hard to know why someone brought back a 77-inch. They weren't happy,
Mhm.
or there may be a dead pixel. Just that's open box are just hard to recommend. That's what I'm telling you. For
Yeah.
TVs, they're hard to recommend.
And especially for me, I think the X95K is it's a good TV. It is a good TV,
Yeah.
but the S89C will have better infinite contrast, but I don't think you should buy a new TV unless you can get a 85-inch, larger, you're getting that
Yeah.
immersion improvement, but it's not worth replacing X95K unless there's something wrong with it, like you're getting a red flashing. It's gonna die any minute now.
And I would buy that TV new. I'm just saying,
Yeah,
it's a Samsung. It's very hard. Again, as I mentioned, buying a tablet or anything from them, they give you warranties based on its condition. TVs, it's
yeah.
just, hey, somebody brought it back. Why? I'm only telling you because I've seen my own TVs there with dead pixels being sold as, hey, it's an open box. What's wrong with it? And I've asked the people, hey, what was wrong with this Vizio that they brought it back, knowing it's my TV? Oh, the guy just wasn't happy with it, so he brought it back. Okay, I told you I brought back this one because it had dead pixels. So expect that some of that is happening, and you're
Mhm.
taking a chance. It's just very hard
That
for a
makes sense.
TV and a TV Fomo that's that good of value. I'd rather see you spend a little more and buy it new if you really
Yeah,
want to
that
upgrade.
makes
Don't
sense.
buy a TV that cheap open box. You're looking for trouble.
And real quick, Steve, aren't the computer monitors this year with inkjet OLED? Actually, it came out last year. I have it right over there. I have a CSOT slash Japan OLED inkjet printed RGB OLED. They were reserved for computer monitors. Asus ProArt sold it, as well as LG, but it's pretty expensive. Right? It's like $3,000. But it's out there. It's been out there. We're hoping the inkjet OLEDs get a little bit cheaper over time, but right now it's just really for designers and creatives, right? Not worth getting. But yeah, it's been out there for over a year now. And
Fomo,
thank you
I
for
have
the
a
super
quick.
chat. Yeah,
All right,
go
go
ahead.
ahead, go ahead, go ahead. No, take that one. Take that one.
Oh,
I have a question
James,
for you
thank you
when
for
you're
that
done.
super chat. Struggling
It's
between a
okay.
C3 or S89C, S90C, 77-inch. Help. Worried 77 is too big. So let's start with that. It is not too big. If you watch my video,
James.
it is close enough that it's not too big. The
Nah.
S90C, depending on what you're using it for, but generally speaking, the 89 and the 90C, I think it's just a better TV overall in terms of the color saturation, the color luminance, the brightness, just everything. Sports will be brighter. Other than it's missing Dolby Vision, and some people care, I don't, so you know, but it's not a big deal. I think it's also a better gaming TV all around. Now, you said G3, we could have a discussion, but the C3, I think, falls behind both the 89 and the 90. Get the 77-inch, and then I'll tell you how it's not so big. You could sit 6 feet like I do in front of a 77-inch, and you're good to go. Okay, Brian, what were you gonna say?
So my question for you is, a lot of these questions about what do I buy? I know we've talked about this, but for you, what's your advice? Right now, to
That's
me, is the worst possible time to buy, unless you know exactly what you want, because you're buying. And I know it's hard for you guys. The prices are dropping, and everyone's like, "Look, I really want my eye on this." But CES probably showed us.
mhm,
TCL really showed us the complete monitors, the complete
mhm.
TVs. Um, Also, Hisense showed us their complete lineup. Samsung did not show her complete lineup. Sony
Nope.
did not show their complete lineup. LG showed their complete lineup. So as long as you're okay, it's just hard for me to recommend buying something right now unless you're 100% sure. Right?
So
What do
I
you
have
think?
a yeah, this is such a great question because it actually segues into what we're talking now, bigger, cheaper mini LED. If you're in the market for the largest TV, you can afford. Wait until the 2024 models come out because they will be LCD TVs, mini LED. They will all be bigger at a better price, or for the same price, you're going to get brighter. I mean, the improvements among mini LED TVs this year, and this is across the board, Sony, Samsung, TCL, Hisense, right? They're shockingly, and this is basically surprising the entire industry as far as analysis. All the analysts have predicted the LCD investment in terms of better technology, this and that has been a decline. And then suddenly TCL, BOE, Hisense comes out with these high performance TVs that are just breaking things, right? So if you're in the market where you're not loyal to OLED, like I don't care if it's OLED or not, I just want it bigger and better, hold off. Now, if you want OLED, like, you know what? I need a good OLED, but I don't need a 2024 if it's not that much better. If your budget is the C3 budget, A80L C3, buy now. Unless it's an S89, S90C. Buy the S89 or S90C. That will perform as well as any TV released in that same price range this year. All the good stuff, whether it's that new anti-reflective matte screen or brighter 3000 nit, that's all flagship stuff. That's not your price point anyway. But if you're in that $1,500, $1,600, $1,700 price point, the S90C at the 55, 65 inch size, the 77-inch size S89, S90, that price point will still be very good value. Whether it's a 2024 or 2023, I think the performance will be similar enough that, I mean, unless they're bringing third gen QD OLED to the S90D at that price, you know, I think you're getting a good deal right now with the 89 and the 90. So, yeah,
my favorite time about now, Fomo, is buy yourself a flagship from last year and be happy you're getting a flagship. But I think quickly we got to say we have a celebrity artist in the chat. Mr. Phil Holland is in the chat.
Oh,
Phil was recently, you guys saw Phil during Value Electronics Shootout. Phil is a true artist. And Phil was actually the star of FOMO's last video about viewing distance. So Phil Holland is in the chat.
Right here. That's it. Yeah. This is him. That's Phil right there.
Yeah. So if you want to see Phil, he's got his own channel. Follow him back. He's amazing. He's worked on 1 million movies. He does a lot of the Apple stuff that you guys see. He was amazing to talk to, and a lot of our streams had Phil talking. We interviewed him quite a bit. So Phil, thanks for jumping in, bro.
Hey, yeah, thanks, Phil. Let's show his website real quick. That's him right there. There you go. That's Phil's website, and check him out. It was a pleasure. I learned so much, and I didn't realize creators' intent. I mean, this is where I learned right from Phil, which is, guys, they're assuming you got a bigger TV, you're sitting closer, wider angle shots. You have high resolution. You can see them emoting, the lips moving. That's why you're able to, or you should sit closer. If you sit too far, you're going to miss all of that because the creators are assuming you're just going to sit at 40, 50, 60-degree viewing angle. So, yes, thank you for joining by, Phil.
Well, and talking to that filmmaker from Samsung, the guy who was doing Avatar and built the camera, it was great to hear another artist that was talking about the need for 8K, Phil. You know, he's shooting in 16K. So it felt like we were talking to you. You know, he's building cameras and, talking about the need for 8K. And Phil touched on this when he was showing us his content on the Z series, the 900C and Z9K.
Dude, Phil was shooting in 20K. He got 20K, 32K. He's like, I can't show it because no TVs.
The stuff that he's shooting, his camera costs more than the helicopter he's in. And he's talking about the stabilizing. But when you see the granular detail, I wish I could have really brought you that content to show. You see where 8K does have a purpose. It's in the granular detail. It's in the person waving from miles away. And it was really eye-opening to talk to Phil. He's great. Follow him back to his website. And go back to the footage that, the interviews that Fomo and I had with Phil. It's really eye-opening. And it shows you why 8K at some point will have a place. It was a little too soon, but it was great to talk to him. So
he's definitely moving for 8K content because his workflow is already for 8K, but it's not cheap, right? But as everything gets cheaper, bandwidth, storage, processing, I think native 8K eventually will make its way. Maybe to my 3D glasses one day, right? The AR.
In FOMO, it's artists like Phil that Sony is referring to when they talk about these studios wanting 4,000 nits. We think they don't want to do 4,000 nits because they don't feel like it. Where Phil is saying, no, I like 8K. I shoot in 80K. And I know Jennifer Gala's in the chat. She shoots in 8K all the time and 16K.
Yes.
So we think that these artists don't want to do it. But as Rob alluded to, Rob Brennan, hi, Jen, that the ability to do 4,000 nits, they have to pass that same footage, 4 more times. They're just not doing it because there's no capability and it's too arduous. Now they have the monitors. So it's not a matter of, hey, here's a new Sony TV and here's this new movie. 80% of those filmmakers already have the studio. They want to make it. So it'll be interesting to see when that comes to light and when AK comes to light.
And speaking of Jennifer, thank you, Jennifer, for
Jen.
coming by. This is a great question. Hello, my friends. Brian and Fomo. What OLED would you buy? 55 inches, LG or Samsung? C4 or the new Samsung? So the C4, unfortunately, does not have MLA. The new Samsung 55-inch, we're assuming it will be the new 3rd gen 3000 nits. So Samsung S95D, so two ifs. One, if it's 3rd gen, two, is it capable of 3000 nits? Just because the panel is it? Now, for you, Jennifer, that will give you less tone mapping of content if you're mastering, if this is your client monitor for mastering. And secondly, though, will the matte screen be a reason? Not you might want it because, as we know, monitors, you're paying extra for a matte screen, right? So Apple charges an extra, I don't know how much, a few $100s for the matte version of their XR mini LED, right? The XDR. So maybe you might want the matte screen, Jennifer, because you're using it as a monitor, but then maybe you may not be getting that true black if your room is bright, but if your room is dark, then do you need a matte screen? There's a huge discussion there. Personally, I would still get the Samsung S95D if I know it's capable of close, it doesn't have to be 3000 nits, but like, let's say over 2500 nits. Boom, that's a done deal because it's so far ahead of the C4, even with the matte screen. So, Brian, what are your thoughts on Jennifer's question?
I love Jen because Jen is, I always say Jen is not like big TVs. Doesn't matter what room she's in. And she's an artist too. So she's like, stop talking about big TVs, Brian. I'm staying at 55. So I think same thing. It's really hard to recommend the C4 at this point because it's just very incremental upgrades. So I think as long as you're okay with the matte finish, I would definitely look at the S95D or the 90 if it's as close as the 90 was to last year's 95.
And next super chat up. Thank you, Smoking with Fats. Some of these names, man.
Was that ham on there? You make out some food
on ham. Barbecue there. Hey, fellas, I wonder if you guys can help me. I'm having a hard time deciding between a 65-inch A95L, which is a great TV. I actually have that TV. Or should I pay $300 more for a 77-inch G3? Okay, for me, I would go with a larger size because I know what I watch, right? Most of the stuff that I watch for myself, for my family, the two are indistinguishable. Now, if I'm critically watching, yes, I know Dolby Vision to me is slightly darker than the G3, but the A95L, Dolby Vision is slightly brighter. Neither of them truly accurate, but for what I watch, a lot of sports, 77-inch G3 will hit the spot because it's bigger than the 65-inch. And it preserves that brightness for sports watching in a bright room because I watch a lot of college football during the day. So I would go with the G3. And it's larger. I mean, that to me, like what we talked about, it allows me to sit 7 feet away and get that immersion. Brian, your choice.
Yeah, so the jump from 65 to 75 is massive. From 65 to 77 is massive. The G3 is a good fight against the A95L at the same size. There's no comparison at that size difference. So there's no hesitation. Even if you love XR Clear or whatever you want from Sony, you cannot, that size. 65 is a good size, but 77 is the next level. And I mean, I would get you a 77 C3 over an A95L, or an A80L or S90. So that's where someone like you has to say to yourself, the prestige of the A95L is not worth going against a TV that's larger and of close quality. Even if it was an LED, I'd say go with the 75 or 77. So yeah, easily G3, especially for $300.
$300 is not a lot, and then not at that price level. Yeah, it's not like you're going from a $500 to an $800, which is a huge jump. I think this is worthwhile for sure. And staying in that theme, 77-inch S89C from Best Buy for $2,000. Is that a good deal? Thank you for the super chat, MOSFET. Yes, it is. Unless you are a member of the Samsung, they call it offer program, you can get that S90C for maybe just under $2,000. But Best Buy, 2-year warranty. You can pick it up. It's trouble-free. I would go with a 1999 S89C all day long. It is this, and the S90C continues to be my favorite TV, even in 2024. Until I see what the pricing is like on their new TVs, this is such a good price still.
I mean, when you have TVs Fomo that big that are OLEDs and they cost less than your phone, I mean, We're getting pretty crazy. They're like, hey, should I buy this monitor? Should I buy this Samsung G9 for 2,500? You're like, how about you buy a 77-inch S89? You're like, oh, I didn't know I could.
And they're like, wait, where did that come from?
Like, wait, I'm buying a monitor for what?
And Sean Paul has a super chat that goes to our topic right now. 110-inch 2024 Hisense UX. To review, in the USA, this will be a 4K TV. It will be 10,000 nits. What isn't known is whether it will be packaged with a soundbar, or will it be sold separately, or will they even offer that soundbar at all? They haven't decided how they're going to package that. Or the 115-inch 2024 TCL QM8. Which one and why? We know that the 115-inch 2024 TCL QM8 is going to be more than $10,000.
Yeah,
somewhere between 10,000 and 19,000, somewhere there, right? Closer to 19, because it's that extra 5 inches. It is literally the largest TV you can get. Now, the 110-inch Hisense, slightly smaller, but significantly brighter in terms of on paper, 10,000 nits versus 5,000 nits. How much of that 10,000 nits are you going to see if your content only goes up to 2,000 nits? None. They'll look identical, assuming they are both somewhat accurate to the source, right?
Yeah.
So the 10,000, 5,000 argument right now is a moot point. There is no content that's above 5,000 nits. I think some of the brightest stuff is still 4 to 5 anyway. Don't worry about the brightness. That 5-inch size, is it worth the extra? I'm going to throw this out there. Maybe it's $5,000 more on the TCL. Maybe it's even more than 5. I'm hoping the UX is under 10 grand. That's my hope. I don't have any insight, but if it is, the 110-inch will be a recommendation because that's an amazing price. 40,000 dimming zones. I would go with the 110 if it is almost half the price, because I think that value is just crazy. Now, Hisense has consistently shown that they have better image processing than TCL in terms of just general color accuracy. TCL is a bit hard-handed. They hit the contrast, they hit the deep blacks, but
Figure it out.
the colors, right? The skin tones, the magenta lips, it may not be your thing. Hisense works a little bit harder, especially if you're willing to calibrate. If you're going to bring in a calibrator, they would love to work with a Hisense all day long, because it appears the Hisense calibration settings.
You can work with it.
Yeah, you can work with it. You can make it. The TCL, nothing you can do. Even twice now, 2 years in a row, Sammy comes in and just threw up his hands. There's nothing I can do here.
He's like, let's go ahead and put it in cinema. Have a good day. That'll be $300.
That's pretty much it, right? Yeah. He said, look, just put it in warm one and go to town, because there's nothing more I can do. I mean, it's slightly better, but not a lot. Whereas the Hisense, he was able to tune it to make it almost as accurate, if not as accurate, as a Sony TV, which is just crazy awesome. So I think for the cinema enthusiast, the Hisense, now this is assuming TCL doesn't do anything to change its calibration settings so that you can calibrate it. And Hisense continues to do what it does so well, making it friendly to calibrators. So if that continues, I would choose the Hisense for the enthusiast. But you're in a bright room, sports, gaming, QM8. That thing is just going to be so impactful for your family, your kids, your friends. Plug it into the PS5 and you're going to have a great time. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question, my friend.
Well, and I would say, guys, what's so interesting about Fomo and I being at CES, right? Fomo, the QM8 is in a different room. It's in a dark room where they were showing it. The Hisense UX was facing the brightest part of the show. Yeah. So they had 8K TVs in the middle. So looking at the QM8 in TCL's booth, it was more impressive to me. But that was also the content that was showing. The content on, it was all the very saturated colors, Fomo. But the UX last year was extremely impressive. So it's all going to be about how they show up with the same content. Demo material, TCL had it in a dark room. It looked more impressive. But they both let us know, and Hisense let me know too, do not expect these to be affordable, because you're looking at it in the sense of, this is a 10,000 or 100-inch TV. It's not the U8K, Getty G, man. This ain't going to be $100. These are the glass alone, the speakers on the UX. That TV was $5 grand at 85. They did not want to budge off that. So at double the size or 100-inch, forget it.
I mean, you're a great segue. You just segue into this next topic.
I'm not even reading the bottom.
I know. So before we jump into hey, Getty, thanks for the comment, super chat. 83-inch G for a price guess, 10,000, maybe more. Okay, I'm gonna guess it's
No way. It's not going to be
nah,
$10,000.
8,000, 7 to
It's
8,
going to be, it's going to be
8,000,
6 grand.
7 to 8. That's my guess. A
It's
guess.
not
I
going
don't
to be,
know.
it's no way. It's not going to be that much. Those days are over. The
Yeah.
A90J at 83 inches was like 8 grand. There's
So
no
8
way.
grand,
Yeah, maybe 8,000 at
maybe 8.
most. You're
Yeah,
not going to see a
at
10,000.
most.
And someone else said, why are TVs so expensive? I love you guys. You have no idea.
Yeah.
Trinitron 32-inch TVs were like $1,000 in 80s, right? Remember we said Vizio P series in 2016 was $4,000. C7 at 77 inches was 15 grand. I know it's expensive, guys, but these TVs are, I don't know where you expect them to make any money.
Well, now,
It's like,
speaking of expensive, are you at the point where you're willing to pay over 2,000 for a Hisense or TCL? And they're larger, but
I
it's
am.
still 2,000 for a Hisense or a TCL.
So me saying that, guys, keep in mind, yes, I'm willing to pay that much for those TVs because I know like the UX to me was worth it. It was worth that price because it hung right in there with the X9. What's up, Techno Dad? It hung
Go
in
big or
there
go
with the X.
home.
Exactly. It hung in there with the X95 and beat it in some ways as far as I was concerned. However, I'm also past the point of spending $10,000 on the TV. I don't think any of them are worth that much money just because they're, I mean, look at the Z series or what is it, FOMO, 98-inch or 97-inch G2 is still $20,000. I could never spend that money like I would have 10 grand years ago. I don't think anything is worth that anymore. So as much as I think they're much more affordable, I also would never spend as much because I don't think they're worth that much.
And Rockout has a great question. Thank you for the super chat or great comment. Hey, I'm upgrading from my 65-inch Sony A8G. Ooh, yeah, that's a while back. And debating on the Sony 77-inch A80L or the 77-inch C4 and maybe the S9077. Okay, but don't
You're so
know about
passive
the stand.
aggressive.
So the A8G, boy, was that a dim TV.
Dude, hold on, let me stop you. Answer him, but Fomo, dude, you gotta be careful. His comments, like what was it? Look, no judgment. You don't judge you by your TVs. The person that asked the question, he's like, wow, so you're coming from an Insignia. He goes, hey, I'm upgrading from my 65-inch AEG. Wow, that was a while back.
It's a worthwhile upgrade. Hey, good things happen if you wait. That's the theme.
Rockout's like, wait a minute, I'm actually might not really upgrade. Your
I
TV's
changed
still
my
good.
mind. I'm holding on.
Wow, that was a while ago. That was in the Stone Age.
So if you haven't guessed or if you haven't watched my video, Rockout, this S90C 77-inch is my editor's choice last year and continues to be a great TV. It is just more impactful than the A80L and the C4. And it's all around a really good TV, in my opinion. And definitely in both size, color vibrancy, color luminance, just everything is going to be brighter than your A8G. Now, the A80L, they have their benefits, but the A80L and the C4 share the WOLED panel, which is, to me, slightly inferior in many ways. I do like the S90C. I think for you and for most people, this will be the better upgrade, especially if you take price into consideration. If you are a AAA member or any of, .edu, the offer membership at Samsung.com, it's slightly below 2,000. And even if it's slightly above 2,000, which puts it at a similar price point as A80L and C4, the S90C is just a better TV, in my opinion. How about you, Brian? What are you thinking? You have the A80L.
He's like, A80L's a piece of crap. And I was like, hey, man, we recommended it for the last 5 months.
83-inch.
Oh, only 83.
Only the 83 over the C4. A80L over the C4, but they never throw in the S90C.
You know what I remember about the 88G, I think, that was when they released like the 88F, those TVs within like 6 months of each other. Remember that? They're like, here's our OLED. Oh, here's another one. So, yeah, I mean, again, it's hard not to recommend the newer TV, which would be the C4. But it's not going to have the new processor, so the A80L is going to smoke it just in terms of processing. But then the S90C is a QD OLED, and they're going to win if they're the same size. So I think FOMO's right.
Now, Rocco brings, so he's been doing his research. He's
Oh
continuing the
no.
question. LG and Samsung now $400 less. Sony $400 for the soundbar, but they have the Sony upscaling or a better deal with LG or Samsung. So yes, there's something to be said about the XR Clear. However, given all of that, I still think you're going to benefit from the extra vibrancy of the S90C. But if you have especially rough cable feed, your internet is especially questionable, then the XR Clear equipped A80L would be my choice over the LG still. But it really depends on how bad your internet is or your cable box. I'd say give the F90C a shot just to see, and if you're like, wow, this looks amazing, then good. Hold on to it, have fun. But if you're like, oh yeah, I don't like whether it's the motion or the low bit rate, stuttery, and you can't get it to fit what you want, then go to the XR Clear equipped A80L. But yeah, no, he's doing his research. Brian?
He's like, hey, rock out. If you don't like your old TV and your internet is questionable, I'm gonna start cutting Fomo's like his little comments. I'm like, wait a second. No, it's great advice. I think you're right. I think he's right. I'm just teasing you, Rocco. Gotta
And
have fun, dude. Gotta have fun.
this one, great segue into what we're talking about. Hey guys, FOMO mentioned 3D. Do you feel 3D might come back in TVs? And if maybe, would it be passive, active, or something new? So iTunes, Apple, if you buy any Apple movie, they're converting many of it to 3D with the purpose of letting you watch it on your Apple Vision Pro. Now, whether this 3D works with a 3D TV, I don't know, right? Because that was not their intent.
No,
However, will this drive TVs to bring back 3D? And I don't think so, because TV makers are hitting the limits of their margins. They will add the features that they know people want. Netflix, right? If it's a smart TV, it better have Netflix. So they will do whatever it takes to bring in Netflix. And everyone else except Samsung will bring in Dolby Vision, right? They're throwing in features that they think, oh, consumers want it. 3D is not that feature. Well, not that I know of. I mean, a few people want it, and so they buy a projector for it. But
I
if
was
they
gonna
put it
say,
back,
yeah.
no one's gonna. Yeah, I don't think
I
it's
have
coming
I have
back to TVs.
I have a $500 Optoma with glasses that were $30. The 3D is phenomenal. I mean, so if you really want 3D that bad, use your console and get a projector, a cheap projector. But TVs are never going back. The crosstalk was always bad on them. There was really, I had on an old Sony, there was always just, it never looked 3D. It was kind of 2D, but it popped at you. So I would definitely go with a projector if you want 3D, but it's never coming back to TVs. And most people just have a hard time with the glasses. They don't want them. They don't want them. And the cut and
No.
resolution really bothered everyone. Like, wait a minute, I have a 1080p TV. Why do I have a cut and resolution? So headsets are
Yeah.
going to be the future with that if you want to. I love my Quest. I have the Quest 1, the Quest 2. The Quest 3 is on its way. I'm liking VR, but, that's the only place you're going to see 3D.
And this next super chat kind of takes me to what we're going to talk about. Do
Definitely,
we have a
Jen.
confirmation that the S95D has one connect? So Chris is ignoring that it's a matte screen altogether. He's just concerned about the one connects. I'll tell
Yeah,
you.
it was there. It was attached to the back of the TV.
Now, they would never confirm any details, but it appears the S95D does have the one connect. We saw it. We saw the flagship.
Yeah,
It's
it was
the
there.
old one connect box, right?
Did I dream that, or was it one Connect boxes
No,
on the
it
back
was
of the
there.
TV?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It
I
was
can
there.
confirm it's there.
If so, dude,
Hold on
will
a
have
second.
limited bandwidth
Yeah, it was
again.
there.
Now, from what they've told me, they being the people on site, they cannot share specific specs, but they think it's the same box. The new box is on the 8K. The 8K
Nothing
has
new
the
on
new
those ones.
thinner box, right? And we don't even know if that has limited bandwidth or not, by the way. But at least
Probably
that's
not.
a different looking box.
That's
This
love.
appears to be the same box. Do not buy the S95D if you are needing for sure full bandwidth, full gaming features. Wait for reviews, because everything is speculative. Even if I say, oh, it's full bandwidth, but it has dropouts, that makes it a moot point still, right?
Yeah.
So one connect, assume limited bandwidth until told otherwise, and
But
you're
yeah,
welcome, even if
if
it's a
they had,
deal breaker.
if they had the new processor Fomo, maybe we'd say okay, we'll revisit it. But they didn't do anything to it. So to me, that's what's going to hurt the QD OLED this year. Is not only did they not did they add this lovely finish to it, They didn't update the processor. So now by not updating the processor, you're going against the G3, which has a new processor, and the conversation will be very different this year.
Okay, so the TV will be in the basement for sports. So we're back to this question. So more detail.
Back out. What up, baby? Damn.
Between the the A80L C4 or the S90C. And for me, it doesn't matter. It's in the basement, which is good because Brian did not like how light shone on the S90C. If anything, if you say you're in a bright room, he would definitely say, you know what, have second thoughts about the S90C because he did not like how QD-OLED handled direct reflections in a dark room. Now, for sure, I'm very comfortable recommending the S90C because for me, high quality HDR looks best on the S90C compared to those other two TVs. So I would still recommend the S90C.
Yep.
And Getty, is the A95L staying out of the shot this year?
No,
If Sony does not release a better TV, I will roll in the A95L because there's a lot of firmware that needs to be done. The A95L, after Classy's recent review exposing some of its weaknesses, I want to revisit it because I think since we don't know what we don't know, we did not know that it had trouble with low luminous scenes, and there was color shifting at that exact luminance, and it's in common TV shows like season 1 of Loki. We're not talking some esoteric, cinema enthusiast only movie, right? This is something that people watch on Disney Plus, and it's streamed, and it only happens in streaming, unfortunately. So, which is ironic. XR Clear is amazing, and yet this issue only happens in streaming. So we will revisit a few things that we know the A95L has problems, and then compare to the other TVs and see, is it enough for people to say, oh, you know what, I don't know. So it may not. It depends if Sony releases an A95M. If they do, then we will use the A95M. But also, let's see if Sony addressed those issues from the A95L. So yeah, it really depends. Thanks for that.
And that's why I'll say too, even Classy's findings are so valuable. They're going to address them because the TV, as far as I'm concerned, the A95L is a 2024 TV. So it's not like they're not going to support it. They're going to fix it.
Yes.
And I don't think they have another one coming. So I think you're going to see that one. I think you'll see new models of everything but the A95L.
Yeah. And this next question, I think, goes to the new Sony that we're talking about here. I did not ask this question. I don't know if you did. Is the Sony new prototype, the new mini LED, do you know if it's that new mini LED 4000 nits is 4K or 8K? Do you know?
We don't know. I would guess it's a 4K. I mean, if I'm guessing, it's an X95. Only because they had an X95 there as scale to show what the X95 was comparing with. If they want creators' intent, they won't put it in 8K because that's not what the creators are making. I don't have that information. I'm just guessing. If they're going creators' intent and they go 8K, that defeats the purpose because it's supposed to mirror the reference monitor, and they're using that for 4K.
And Dix brings us back to the anti-reflective coating. And this is why I brought back the anti-reflective coating. Stop the Fomo. I tried to clean fingerprints off the S90C, and it was a pain. These QD-OLEDs are hard to clean. And that was something they mentioned. With the new matte coating, it is supposed to be easier. So I'll take their word for it, right? It probably is easier. It's a special coating. But let's take us to the matte screen. Brian, is it enough that
I cannot wait for our video, bro.
You still hate it. It's easier to clean. Is that enough?
You're like, Hot in Blacks. Crappy, but you know what? I can clean it beautifully. I mean,
yes,
I'm 100% against it. Wait till you see our video. We're actually going to shoot it. I think we're going to try and shoot it this week. Our tech therapy video is going to be hysterical. It's not going to be very therapeutic.
Okay.
I mean, he's talking about the 90C, so the 90C will be. Oh, you said
will be normal glass, right? But if those considering the 95C, it is easier to clean with the matte coating.
I would just say stop touching your TV with them fingers, baby, and just get some microfiber, call it a day. I mean, this thing is so FOMO. This thing is so matte that it's not black. I mean, it's so black.
I know.
It looks like somebody put like fabric on it. It looks. I mean. All right.
But Brian, I'm real tech for real people. If real people if real people buy it,
clean their TV,
buy it up, right? They're buying up this matte screen. how do you like? What do you say to me? Like, you know what? I know you love your matte screen, but I'm telling you, don't get it. Like, how would you address the people who love the anti? Or you say you don't know what you're missing? Get
Yeah,
a
man.
TV
Well,
without a matte screen.
well,
Like, how do you argue
so
with that?
this hasn't happened to us yet. The frame is probably one of their best sellers, right?
Yes, it
Fomo's
is.
got one behind them, and I every time I'm in a Best Buy, I shoot it. I mean, I shoot it because people love them. It's not anybody in our chat, but I know somebody out there is buying them. And if we look at the numbers, and Fomo, you and I talked about this, um, the numbers of OLED numbers are way down. If you look at our chat, we think they're way up because the enthusiasts are
Mhm.
buying them. The population is not, which is why mini LEDs are being pushed again. So yes, as far as matte screen for the population, yes, they make more sense. I mean, this technology is incredible as far as what it does for the reflections FOMO. I mean, for it's not even matte; it's anti-reflection. It's incredible. I just
A-
wouldn't buy one.
And Brandon, so let me be clear. We were, if you look at their display that you're seeing on all of the YouTube coverage, right? My coverage, Brian coverage, the blacks look very similar. So let's put that aside. We went into their special viewing room that only a select few reviewers and YouTubers and press got to see, which was shown off by our friend Florian. And he set it up with the matte screen and a previous generation without. And it was, a little bit glossy. And he wanted to demonstrate how great the matte screen was. And both Brian and I, in this controlled lighting environment, which was a bright room, to give that matte its best showing, unfortunately, it also showed off the biggest weakness, which was the blacks were raised. So when you have the two TVs next to each other, right, Brian? The glossy, semi-gloss, gloss, and then the S95D. The glossy semi-gloss, yes, we saw the reflections. Yes, it was distracting, but in the areas where there were no reflections, it was very deep black. In that same scene, in the areas, well, there's no reflection at all. Those scenes, the blacks are just dark gray. And immediately, Brian and I are like, you know what? I understand the bright room. I see it. But when you turn off the lights, is that black still lifted? And they all recognize, yes, the blacks are lifted. They didn't try to
Yeah,
convince us, no, look again, it's really black. We go,
no,
no, when you turn off the lights, the blacks are the same. And I would say it is close enough that I would give it a pass, but you did not, Brian.
no. And I'm gonna bring in Chirac for this because when we saw the his QD, now that was also their next generation QD OLED. When that
Yes,
QD OLED went against an WRGB OLED, it was not close. Not in terms of clarity, brightness, color volume, nothing. The new QD OLED blew away the WRGB OLED. What FOMO and I were seeing was a new QD OLED from Samsung with that finish go against last year's WRGB, and that WRGB looked more QD OLED than the QD OLED. So what I'm
because of
saying
that
to you is,
black. Yeah.
yeah. So what I'm saying to you is, even with the reflection part, I like the WRGB better because it was cleaner. Now, would I say the blacks are bad, Brandon? They're not bad at all, actually. The blacks are quite good. But we're talking about OLEDs. If the blacks aren't black, it defeats the purpose of having them at all. So
Mhm.
we're talking about splitting hairs because we're enthusiasts. If the black level is not as good as a G series or a C series, there's no way I'm recommending an OLED that has less black level than any other competitor, unless you are watching it outside. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me to give up black level at all. That's why we joke
Yeah.
about raised blacks in gaming. Why am I watching HDR that's raised on an OLED? It defeats the purpose of OLED. That's the only thing they really have to offer is contrast ratio and black level. So to sacrifice that makes no sense to me. Put it on the 90 and see how it does. But you put it on the flagship that's also going to have a one connect box. It's double jeopardy. No one is going to buy it, at least of our group. I mean,
And
chances are everyone will
yeah.
buy it.
And Brandon, to be fair, also in the showroom, the first look at Samsung, the light was not directly shining on it. It was overhead. When the light is overhead, even though there's reflection, the blacks are a little bit blacker. What Florian did was shine light directly on it, which created that scatter effect.
Yeah, yeah,
Everything was scattered. So the ambient light was sucked in because the direct
yeah.
ring light was on it. So that's why it looked very raised to me. But again, it's all your use case. But as Brian said, if you want the perfect blacks all the time, you got to avoid the matte screen. But if glare, and this is the argument, if glare is more distracting, so now you have that give and take. Brian, glare is fine. I will take it all day long. And if you're like, you know
Yeah,
what,
so
glare is a
even when
little
the
bit,
glare, was showing Fomo, because him and I were, I wish you guys could have watched us do it. Even when the lights were on, I still was drawn to the OLED. The reflections, I see them every day here, but the clarity was there. The black level was there. The detail was an eye. You still see the
mhm,
eye was green. Over on the QD OLED, the whole image was clear, FOMO. It was all present,
yeah,
but the whole
mhm,
image was dull. It wasn't just the blacks, it was more flat. So it looked like an LED. So my thing is then get an LED.
mhm.
Get a
Fair enough.
bright QM95C. So that's just me. I mean, what are we gonna do? Wait till
Fair
our
enough.
video. It's gonna be hysterical.
I got you.
This FOMO loves it.
Uh,
He's like, I like it.
I think for most people, it's fine. Like if I put my enthusiast reviewer hat on, it's dead to me, right? But I put on the wife, the spouse hat, you know, the family guy hat, it's okay. I mean, I'd live with it, right? For the lack of distraction, whatever. So,
So,
and I know my room is very bright and glary, and I think it
so
would
guys,
benefit from it.
so those of you that watch us, I want you to hold him to that because I want to see throughout the year how often he actually recommends it. Because I
Yeah,
haven't heard him
yeah,
recommend it
I'll
yet.
get it. We'll see. Yeah, for sure. Like,
I haven't heard him
ah,
once go, hey, uh, I mean, as soon as that one Connect box struggled, that thing died. He's like, nope, never. He never brought up the S95C again the whole year.
and here's an interesting question.
What's up, friendless? Oh, friendless.
QD, thank you, friendless, for the super chat. FOMO, love what you and Brian do. Between the Samsung S89C, that's a Best Buy exclusive QD OLED 77-inch, or I'm assuming a similar size Sony X90CL, which is probably the Costco special, right? Less expensive. Which would you pick and why? So
That's easy.
at $2,000, the Sony X90L is about 85 inches. So I'm saying 77 or 85 inch. Okay,
Yes.
I have an OLED. I've lived with OLED ever since I started this channel. My first OLED was an A9G 4.5 years ago. It's hard for me to go back to a non-OLED. So I would have to get an OLED at a larger size, 83 inch. Now, if you're coming from a non-OLED LCD
Yep.
TV, the Sony
Great choice.
X90L is an amazing TV for an older LCD TV, let's say 4 or 5 years old, like the Samsung Q8 great upgrade, get the 85-inch Sony X90L, you'll love it. But if you're coming from an OLED, you will notice the black bars. You will notice the blooming. So, I mean, it doesn't have a lot of dimming zones. It is great for what it is compared to the TVs from the past.
Yeah.
So I would pick the 89C 77-inch, which is just a variation of my editor's choice. But I'm assuming you, friendless, are coming from an OLED. But if you're coming from a Vizio, so I'm going to throw Vizio under the bus. If you're coming from a Vizio or an Insignia or our good friend, the Fire TV, you'll love the Sony X90L. Brian?
Dude, I love we've disagreed on every one of these questions. Definitely great part, FOMO, about what TV are you coming from. I hope you're talking about the 85 because you're talking about the 75, then it's no bueno. I think, again, if you are in a brighter room, to me, the X90 gets more impressive the larger it gets. The 85-inch is actually pretty impressive. It's the most impressive one out of the lineup. I would say if that's what you want, that it can't get bigger, is what we say always. FOMO, 77-inch can't grow. But if the 77-inch is large enough for you, then the S89 easily. If that won't be big enough, then you're going to have to go with a larger TV. I go with the X90. But if it's big enough, S89 easily, because the picture quality is just something you can't beat.
Yeah.
And it's big.
And I want to give some perspective because someone actually does love it. Like I am predicting consumers will love it, but Brandon actually liked it. So, and it doesn't surprise me. So Barbara Hammer says, Brandon, be the installer, love the matte finish. And Brandon was one of my friends who reviewed the frame, thinking it was a throwaway video. It was his #1 video for the longest time. It is still one of his
Of course
best
he loves it.
Samsung videos,
Him and
right?
Jen, I'll be their first video.
Right. And this was like years ago, Brian. It's like,
Yeah.
you know, he did the frame. because he had to, right? It was convenient, and then you're like, oh my gosh, it's killing it. Everyone's watching it, and so when that happens, you're like, wait, people want to buy the frame, and it's one of his best-selling TVs on his affiliate links, right? Like, oh, people are buying it like crazy. Completely unexpected. Now, Brandon gives Matt a fair shake because he's coming from the consumer side, right? Like he says it all the time. Look, Fomo, Brian, Classy, you guys are reviewers. I'm more of a everyday installer reviewer, and from his point of view, he loves the matte finish, and that's something that he may be right. I think the popularity of this will be surprising to all of us enthusiasts, really.
And I think Brandon's also in a very bright environment too. I think that's a big thing
Yeah,
where he
yeah.
installs
He
TVs.
does
It's
not
like,
watch in the dark. Yes.
yeah.
And thank you, Rockout. I'm not sure.
The
He's
Lockout
what
channel.
should I buy? I'm not sure the Samsung 77-inch S90C stand will be able to accommodate a soundbar. If that's true, you go Sony A80L or C3 A80L. So here's my list. C3 is dead last, in my opinion, right? The A80L, I believe, is a better TV overall than C3. And then the S90C is the better TV overall above the A80L. So if you're going to get the C3, might as well just get the B3 and save even more money. As far as I'm concerned, at the 77-inch size, get the A80L. And by the way, these are all good TVs. We're cutting hairs, but if you're going to split hairs, split with the XR Clear. I think you'll like it.
Why wouldn't the S90C be able to accommodate it? Isn't it a center stand?
I think it's too low. It's too low. The stand might be too low.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it is kind of funky. So I get it. Yeah. Or alternatively, rock out, pay like $120, $99 for a TV stand that you buy on Amazon. Sanus
Yep.
has a great one. I use it all the time. Robert Zone uses it at Electronics to
Yep.
put up his G3, which does not come
Yep.
with the stand. So
He
consider
uses
the
better.
Sanus stand for a little over $100. That might work too.
Good point.
All right. Luke Diesel, thank you for the super chat. Thanks for everything you guys do. Hey, thanks for showing up and watching. I ended up with a 75-inch X90L. Wow, congratulations. Only foam I have is that I should have gotten the 85. Brian, what did you say?
It's not gonna go to the
gym. Oh, no.
He's like, I tried watering it and the damn thing hasn't grown.
Well, you know what I would say, Luke? Sit closer. Sit 5 feet away and you'll be in heaven.
I hope you like it though, Luke. Congratulations on your TV. I hope
it's a good TV. Yeah, yeah. But my only regret is it's not big enough. And we tell you guys this all the time. Get the biggest TV you can afford, and at least that's out of the way. All that's left is contrast, maybe skin tones, whatever, and that you can upgrade later because the size is there. Now you keep the size, and then you get better and better with the actual image quality. But if you go in small with great image quality, you're gonna wonder, oh, what if it was bigger, right? There is no winning. The FOMO will always be there for something. But I would like you not to have FOMO for size, though.
So move your whole house closer.
Buy a whole new house.
The family's gonna watch him pull the couch closer. The carpets are gonna change. Hey, what happened? No, don't worry about it. We're fine.
This is something that we haven't talked about yet as a paradigm shift. We all know AI processing has been around, or just image processing in general, right? But this year, they made it a point to focus on changing the creator's intent with AI processing. Now, the TV makers will lead you to believe, oh, no, we're just making it a little bit better, natural, pleasing to the eye. The reality is, Sony started it last year with XR Clear, and I saw it right away next to the reference monitor. I was telling Classy, dude, you notice the XR Clear is making everything slightly brighter in the highlights. He's like, yeah, we'll see what the judges say. And, some judges caught that, marked Sony down. Some judges in other shootouts caught that, marked Sony down, but a lot of judges loved it. And for me, not as a judge, but as a consumer, I liked it. And that XR Clear just blew the roof off of the buyers. I mean, they go, wow, this is great. It's upscaling, this and that. And so all the other TV makers saw that, from Hisense to TCL to Samsung to LG, like, wait, okay, Sony's opened the door. Let's go to town. And LG's latest...
Samsung.
Oh, yeah, you guys...
When you see the 8K AI upscaling, you guys are either going to absolutely love it or you're going to be like, oh my God, that guy's younger.
Yeah. And, oh, Getty, I see your super chat. You're next, my friend. And so you guys turn it off, by the way. Some you can't, like the XR clear is always on because Sony feels that you guys will like it regardless, and they're probably not wrong. But on the LG, you could turn it off. They call it director's cut or whatever.
Yeah.
And the description is very similar to the Sony, right? Making highlights a little bit brighter, making it more natural, skin tones look a bit richer, whatever. And I'm sure Samsung's doing the same thing. Now, the question is this the right direction? Now, I'll start by saying it does improve creators' intent because some content is just too dark. This kind of lightens things up where they think it's too dark, maybe gives you more shadow detail or take away some of that stark contrast. I think it's okay as long as you can disable it in filmmaker mode. Brian, what are your thoughts on AI processing?
I think as long as you can disable it and maybe increase and decrease the strength, as you're seeing with AKAI process, you'll be able to disable that. I think to your point, Formo, it's kind of like the NVIDIA Shield. A lot of people will not like their 4K Blu-rays or DNR'd to death, so it may bother some of you. And obviously, with a lot of processing, you're going to see some maybe artifacting with motion if it gets to be too strong. So it's really hard. I mean, it's AI. It's thinking it's going to try. It may see older content and know it can upscale it. So that's how smart it is. I just think you're going to have a lot of pushback from creators themselves saying that they want grain in their image. That's the signature. So it's really like anything AI. It's a slippery slope, no doubt.
This is what I want AI to do. Is Brandon Becker's comment. Actually, I mentioned this in one of my earlier shows, which is you tell your TV, hey, I want it to look like a Sony A95L. They're like, oh, we know what that is. Boom. It looks very close to A95L. You know what? I want it to look like a Samsung Q9FN circa 2018. Boom. I want it to look like a Vizio. I want it to look like a TCL. I mean, at some point, this is what I want AI to do. Or I want to see it the way Phil Holland saw it, right? Creator's intent. That
Yep.
is where it gets fun. We're not there yet, but I think that's where it gets
Well,
fun.
be careful for that, Brandon, because if you say I want it to look like an A95L, it may do it and then say you owe me $300.
No, it doesn't even tell you that. Bing! Hey, what happened to my checking
like,
account?
Oh, I want it to be a Q9FN. It might give you back $100, but these features, you might be paying for Netflix 9.0 for. So yeah, all this stuff will cost more.
Beware what you wish for, right? Hey, Getty, thanks for the super chat. Why do you buy an OLED if it's not going to be watched in the dark? I agree. Matt is a lazy upgrade gimmick. Sorry, Samsung. I'll take a point. That glossy over matte for me. And Getty, I predict 99.999% of enthusiasts will agree with you. Enthusiasts meaning these are the people that watch calibration YouTubers. You know, they're like, I want the best image quality, capable, right? Us, right? I'm going to put myself with you guys. Like, okay, if I buy it from my parents, I would get them the matte because you know my parents now. They're yelling and screaming about, I can't hear a damn thing.
I don't know.
Right, but in a bright room, and the room is in the kitchen. There are windows everywhere, shining at the TV. I think matte would work well. But what you're saying is right, Getty. For my parents, I would never get them an OLED for that reason. I would get them like what I got them, the 900B bright TV or a QM8, or I should have gotten just a bright Roku TV, right? Is just to get them a bright TV for a bright room. But if you get an OLED to fully appreciate infinite contrast without the distracting glare, light control, you're done. It doesn't have to be completely pitch black, but light control, slightly dim, you're going to love it. And whether matte is a lazy upgrade gimmick, I have to be honest with you in terms of the philosophy behind this, right? So they were very clear why they did the matte. Now, it's not really marketing speak, but it's actually goes to the research that I'm going to go into on tomorrow's Fomo show, where they had this survey of over 40,000 people around the world. They asked them, what's important to you when you buy a TV? And these are common consumers, right? It's a mix of different types. When you buy a TV, what is your number one, number two, number three consideration? And in that consideration, there was no mention of accuracy, deep black. I mean, at the bottom of the list is HDR and all the stuff that we talk, bottom of the list. On the top of the list, the three things: one, size; two, or one, smart TV features like Netflix, whatever it is, easy to use, like a Roku type format. Size, is this big enough? And my parents, eco, is it energy saving? I mean, I would never have put that number three, honestly. But my mom was the first thing she asked me, why is this energy thing so high? Like, mom, it's 8K. Like, what the hell does that mean? It's like, where
Yeah,
is
yeah.
that? It's
Even
like
though the electricity
it's
bill is going
burning
up.
power like crazy, right? So I have to put it in eco mode for her. But see, Getty, the rest of the world are looking at, smart features, is it easy to use UI, stuff that you do not care about. And I think Matt may be in that list that we don't care about, but the rest of the world, and that's what they were saying. Like, look, we're trying to sell TVs here. And we've already hit the near maximum in image quality, near maximum in contrast, right? Infinite. They've hit the maximum in everything, except for the little things. And this lazy gimmick might be the little things that moves the needle for them.
Yeah, I think it's quite the opposite. I don't think it's lazy at all. I think they're filling a need that we don't care about. I'll give you an example. We talked about the Z9D being one of the best LEDs ever made. The Z9F was panned. Why was it panned? X wide viewing angle, something that people wanted. So they cut the contrast, they put that filter on it. You saw the rainbow effect, but people were complaining that the Z9D's viewing angles were too narrow. So we keep going with what you and I think we want. We're the fans. The people that are actually buying don't care. They want efficiency. Look at receivers. They want AirPlay. They don't care if
Mhm.
it's as powerful on your speakers. They're not putting 4 ohm speakers in there. They want AirPlay. They want Spotify. That's what they want, and that's what they ask about. So the enthusiast speaker companies know that's a problem because they're like, oh, I don't have that functionality. Well, I'm not buying it. That's why Sonos is so popular. It's just
Right,
easy for
right.
them to use. It's not what we buy, but it's what people that buy. So
And a quick break for a dad joke, Ryan. Thank you for sharing this. What do coal miners and OLED watchers have in common? They both do it in the dark. I
nice,
love how you applied that.
nice,
That's a
Ryan.
smart one. Thank you, thank you. And okay, so I wanted to hit this one, which we haven't hit yet, which is this. So I know I touched it. So I got the Vision Pro. It's on order. It should be here February 2nd or 3rd. I think I had to move it to the 3rd because on the 2nd I had something happening. But that weekend I'll have it. I'll be watching 3D movies like crazy. So now, my context, I've never seen 3D on a 3D TV. Never got a chance to buy 3D TV before it was gone.
Okay,
So
that wasn't very good.
between my oh good, okay, so I didn't miss anything because between my TV and then upgrading to the next one, the 3D feature disappeared. I think I had a Kuro, and by the time I upgraded the Kuro, there was no more 3D. So that just tells you how short the 3D lifespan was. But now the Apple Vision Pro is out. So let me tell you what I'm looking for. My review of the Apple Vision Pro will be no different than my review of an ultra short throw or a TV, which is first, immersion. Is it the size? Does it feel natural? Second, all right, HDR content. Now I can't measure spectacular highlights, but at least I could talk about the impact because I'm very accustomed to, I'd say, reference level HDR impact for the same movie, right? So I'll compare same movies and then what it brings to the table that a reference TV does not, like the A95L, is 3D immersion. Does the 3D, and we're talking about an actual 3D content, not just it's big, right? It's big, but it's 3D. Does that trump some of the enthusiast measurements on a flagship TV, such as probably specular highlights? Now, I'm going to assume that, and let's see color accuracy to a certain degree, right? How accurate is it? Do I get magenta lips? But we're going to assume that's taken care of. So I'm definitely going to focus on that three dimensionality and relatively speaking, is it a 120-inch TV? Do I feel like I'm 10 feet away from a 120-inch TV? All of that, and dizziness, wearing it for a few hours, is it realistic? Because many of you who are using this will be solo. This is not a family project where you buy it, everyone else has it, right? It's just for you. So a lot of people out there,
Comfort.
they don't have room for a large TV. But Brian, are you interested in the Vision Pro? Not at all.
I mean, I'm into. I like the Oculus and stuff because I game. I don't have
Mhm.
any real. I mean, I've YouTube VR. I just don't like having a thing on my face for very long. And it doesn't really trick me into the immersion as much, probably because I know the Apple Pro is going to give you that, but you really have to have it clear. I'd be looking for avatar type 3D FOMO. That's what I want from it.
Mhm.
But I want it to be really, for that much money, it better be crystal. It better be the best picture quality I've ever seen.
Yeah, and it's not cheap. It's 3,500. Basically, 3,500 for a giant TV
Yeah.
screen in your head.
Where like the
Mhm.
Quest and those, I know it's not as clean as my Xbox or my PC. I get that. So that's what keeps me from loving it. But as far as what you're paying for, if it's really, really clean, fine. But I can't sit there and watch a movie with that thing on my face. Unless I'm on a plane or
Now,
something.
the theme of this show is breaking boundaries, breaking the paradigm shifts. A lot of things are happening this year at a mainstream level that before we didn't think would take place. Brian, what is your biggest paradigm shift this year, 2024?
My thing is, you and I talked earlier last year that micro LEDs or mini LEDs could only survive and thrive at size and value. For me, the shock is that OLEDs are diminishing in terms of they are hitting that brightness threshold. Even the QD OLEDs are going to be really limited because they're not getting larger. So to see mini LED be the focus for Samsung, Sony, like Samsung going 8K, Sony going 4,000 nits, TCL and Hisense already being there, I would not have guessed that's where they're going. I mean, so to me, the biggest paradigm shift is going back to LED with not just price FOMO or value, but quality. So I can see a
Yeah.
Sony saying, "Hey, our flagship this year is a mini LED." Where I thought that they were done doing that. I thought Samsung was going to abandon 8K. They're embracing it. So I'm surprised. I'm surprised that they're going back that way. So to me, that's the biggest thing. Everything else to me is just a prototype. I love the jump that QD is making with 3,000 nits and G4 3,000 nits, but it seems like if they're stuck at a certain size FOMO, that's going to be hard when everyone else is
I
offering cheaper, larger TVs.
When you said OLED is not selling like you thought, in that same survey, when I told you the bottom of the list is HDR, right down there at the bottom of the list, as far as what consumers consider, is OLED. They don't care.
No.
Size trumps the fact that it's an OLED. Now, you and I say if you've gone OLED, you can't go back. Hey, that's not those consumers. These are the consumers that have not had OLED. They may know what OLED is, but before they even think OLED, they're thinking size. And if it's large enough, they're like, okay, $6,000 or five or 4,000, hard pass.
Yep.
85-inch, 2,000 right there. And 2,000 is a lot of money. I have to remind people, 2,000 is a lot of money, but you can get an 85-inch good X90L if it's a Sony or brighter QM8, whatever. 2,000 gets you a pretty decent TV, but it's 85 inches. Or it can
Yeah.
get you 77-inch, and they're looking, wow, that's a size jump, 77 to 85, but I'm saving money, or I'm spending the same, but I'm getting more size. And I think this is something that the OLED makers did not expect. Now,
No.
speaking of non-OLED, Brian, do you know when they're going to launch their 2024 Sonys?
Um,
Or
no.
you cannot share. This is right
I
after we
was like,
spoke to Rob. I know. Rob's like, Brian, go share this. Like, no. All
that's,
right.
that's like when Robert
On our next episode,
Robert Zone used to be the worst like that. He's like, because Robert would go, ah. I'm guessing. I'm just going by last year. Last year was end of February, early March is when they would announce. I'm guessing the same thing this year. I have no information on it. I'm guessing that's what they're going to do again. And it was a master stroke. It worked. I'll tell you though, FOMO, based on what I saw with the prototype, I'd replace the A80L in a heartbeat.
yeah,
That's how convincing 4,000 nits and the local dimming. Now, the problem for me is going back into gaming.
yes. The
But,
latency will not be there. The low
yep.
latency will not be there.
And a lot of the tricks, especially from, and this is one thing we didn't talk about with the 8K AI upscaling, that will not be a gaming thing
Yeah.
because it'll add latency. So I would really love to see these companies just do a cinematic game mode and just do a higher input lag and leave all the local dimming going. So right now, though, on picture quality alone, that kind of advancement will bring me back to mini LED. Not in terms of Hisense and TCL, though, and just listen to 1 second for me. The stars still don't sparkle on
Mm-hmm.
a micro LED. I had them pause the micro LED for me. and it doesn't sparkle the way an OLED does. So that's pixel control. That's what makes the my mini LED Sony
Mini
more.
LED, right?
That's what makes me, because it's still, if it has that kind of 4,000 nits specular highlights, as we know, the micro LEDs aren't that bright.
Yeah.
So Sony's trying that. If they can do that and give me that kind of control, then I will get it in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to see that sooner than later. That is not something that's coming way down the road, from what I understand.
And that's something I'm looking forward to. If they can get it in, I mean, at least at smallest, give me a 75-inch, right? If it's 85-inch and above, I won't be able to review. I'll have to fly to Valley Electronics and hang out with you. I'm hoping 65. I'll bring it in for sure if it's 65. And I'm going to assume it will be if they want to sell more TVs, because even in the USA, 65 inch is currently the most popular size, but it's not going to be cheap. Will
No.
someone pay more than 2,000? And I'm predicting, if it comes in at 65, it's going to launch at above 2,000, just like the A95L.
Okay.
It's
Oh,
going to
yeah,
be
yeah, yeah.
priced similar to that. Yeah.
So yeah, my hope is, if they've learned anything from XR Clear, do not leave it for your premium only. So I'm hoping that LED. See, the funny thing is, what we talked about is the LED is more efficient, but it is going to be triple the zones and
Yeah.
it's much brighter. So I don't know if they can do that on an X90, but that was a great thing that sold X90s in the 80s, because you had value TVs with the high end. So hopefully they do that, where when you look at 8K, Samsung, they're really going exclusive at 8K. So and that's really interesting, isn't it? Fomo, they're drawing. What's up, Andrew? They're drawing that line. What do you think about that? I never even asked you, Fomo. What do you think about Samsung drawing the line at that processor for the 8K, the way they're doing it? Do you agree with it? Do you not love it?
So I think, okay, so from the
What's up, Andrew?
from a product standpoint, meaning I'm the product officer, I'm in charge of selling these TVs and separate. Okay, if my job is to sell 8K TVs, look, guys, we got to sell these 8K TVs, right? The margins are there. How do we separate it beyond just 8K? Because right now, that's the only thing that separates it. It's 8K resolution. But people are like, they caught up to that wackiness. There's no 8K native content, blah, blah, blah. The narrative is there. So they're going to say now, okay, we have the most advanced processor, right? Neural network, all these amazing things. And I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's say they do all those amazing things, but they reserve it for 8K. Now the narrative and the marketing is, this is an 8K TV, not because you have 8K content, but rather when you upscale it with this next generation AI, everything looks better on this TV because it's sharper. And so now they're focused on things like sharper, motion resolution, immersion, the new content. If you're sitting closer, right, as Phil said, as the IMAX cinematographer said, you're sitting closer, shots are being shot slower. You're going to be able to appreciate all of that. And when you upscale 1080p, if you upscale 1080p to 4K, it looks like this. You upscale it with our processor, we're adding missing details, which you may or may not disagree, but I'm going to tell you, consumers will like it because it actually looks pretty good, even though it may not supposed to be there. But that is more powerful than when they started, which is you want 8K. 8K content is coming, right? That fell apart. So now it's more, what does the common man want? And it's going on that research. They want, well, size is going to be expensive at this 8K, but they want size. They want certain things, features, and all the stuff that people are saying they might want. They're trying to work that into this processor.
Yeah, well, I love that they're going in different directions. I don't know if Sony's going to go back with 8K to the same degree, but Samsung is clearly double down on it. But I think what's cool about what Samsung is doing is they've always promised, hey, you're buying it at 8. You hear Best Buy say that. Oh, it's 8K. It makes everything 8K. They're actually trying to do that now.
Yes.
So for the longest time, it's 8K. Well, it's actually not 8K. No. It makes it 8K because it is.
Yeah.
So now they're actually trying to do it. So that's cool.
And to me, their real flagship is the S95. Yeah, I love this comment. The real flagship is the S95D. Guess what? Doesn't have the latest processor. And I've always said, if you take an OLED, self-emissive, infinite contrast, give it an amazing processor, it most likely will look almost as good as the 8K TV, but they can't have that. They're not separating it because that 8K TV costs $1,000 to $2,000 more than the S95D. they got to sell that TV. Better margins for
Yeah.
them. Now,
Yeah.
high def news in the 90s, don't sit too close to the TV, right? Remember back then, get away from that TV. It'll hurt your eyes. I guess because it's CRT. Now,
Yeah.
get as close as you can.
Yeah.
Read those
Don't
pixels,
don't
baby.
was it swim half an hour after you eat? Now you're like, I'm eating in the pool.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't swim after you eat. Now you're in there
My
floating.
back stroking. My man called me George. Here's this guy AB call me George Michael again. Dude,
We
George
actually got an
Michael
answer. Right.
arrogant.
We actually have an answer for this, Getty. Why can't all flagship TVs have 4 HDMI 2.1? So, for whatever reason,
Covered this a
these
million times.
SoCs only come in pairs, meaning the 2.1 that's in the SoC by MediaTek and whatever, it's only 2. And so you need to buy 2 sets of these SoCs to get 4. And so the TV makers are like, well, I'm not going to buy 2 sets because it's redundant. Just to get an extra 2, I have to buy another one. And so rather than doing that, they're going to wait for MediaTek to have 4 in one SoC. And until MediaTek does that, only LG and Samsung will have 4 because they make their own system on a chip, SoC. And the way they designed it, they specifically have 4 because they're in-house chip designers. They designed it that way. Sony does not design those chips. MediaTek designed it with only 2. So you can blame MediaTek for having only 2.
Well,
And
and
until
you can
there's 4. Yeah.
well, and as again, Sony has said, we'll be happy to give it to you if you want to pay another $300 a TV. So that's
But they
why
won't because no one will pay the 300. It's already a
no
premium.
one's going to pay the 300. And look, we've said forever that it's a big deal. I want the 4, but reality is you're going to go for the best picture quality imaginable. LG and Samsung make their own SoCs. That's why they're there. Otherwise, these other companies are not going to do it. They don't think it's that important. And for a lot of people, it's not. People like me use all of them. But they're basically saying reach around your TV and unplug it or get a splitter for $40, call it a day.
Yeah. And Ram, I love it. Every stream, there's someone asking, is the Z9K good for movies? Will it go on sale? And Brian, you've seen the Z9K. We've seen it at the shootout, 8K shootout. So Ram, the Z9K is amazing for movies because they do a great job tone mapping the movie brightness. Most movies are graded up to 1,000 nits. The Z9K is specifically designed to tone map and make 1,000 nit content look amazing, maybe 1,500 nits. Will it go on sale? I think it's at the lowest price it will be, right, Brian? Z9K? I mean, we're in year 2 of Z9K now, or zero, right?
I mean, the Z9K, we had this with the Z9J and the Z8H and all these. You're buying those, and look, Darkman, who just commented he has a Z9K, they're great TVs, but you're clearly buying that to have a really popular TV from a couple years ago. Now, the Z9K is a carryover, so it is current. It's just hard to recommend a TV with not as good a processor as the X95. You're just buying it for the name. And I almost did that with the Z9G, and I'm so glad I did not do that because you end up paying a lot of money for TV they're going to stop covering. And it's going to be a lot older very quickly.
And we were chasing brightness. I mean, when the Z9G came out, it was the brightest TV ever made, and that left quite an impression on most people.
And it bloomed like a bastard.
Yes,
I mean,
that was horrible.
So, and I almost bought that, and and the reason why I say that for you is that I almost bought it for that same reason. Not bragging rights, but to feel like you had the best of the best. Getting the best of the best from a few years ago isn't much bragging rights. So I would just buy what the best current TV is. The Z9K is awesome, but I wouldn't buy it. There's no reason to buy it, especially when you have, and here's what really matters, when you have a new 4,000 nit TV that'll tone map and do all that stuff, the local dimming will be better. It's hard to recommend buying an old 4,000 nit TV versus a new one that'll be doing it for reasons. So it's hard to.
I want to hit this comment by DX real quick. VA with good anti-reflection coating. Anti-reflective coating, viewing angle is better than ADS Pro. So the reason I brought this up is CSOT introduced an all-new technology that improves wide-angle viewing. And I know that this was something shared with me by High Def, right? You say, hey, is this something TCL is doing? So it's not on any TV that I know of yet. Maybe it's on the new 115-inch. We don't know. But CSOT just made a wide angle viewing that preserves contrast and color saturation off angle maybe not quite OLED, but better than any VA ever has a right to be. That could be better than ADS Pro, but because it's not currently available, ADS Pro is still the best among LCD TVs. I think we're to a point where in 2023, the best ADS Pro off angle is better than any VA. Now, on angle, I think they're close enough to say that they're indistinguishable. That's how good ADS Pro is.
Yeah,
Off
it's
angle, the
the best.
VA really falls apart. But moving forward, maybe this new one, let's say in 2025, could
Yeah.
bring VA back. So it's, I mean, again, why I can't get over the TCL is adding so much new technology on what I thought was a dead technology, but LCD is not dead because the Chinese companies are like, wait a minute, why are we chasing OLED? It's expensive. Yes, one day it'll hit 4,000 nits, but it's
It can't
too
get bigger.
expensive at
It
4,000. It
can't get
can't get
bigger.
bigger without, and it's just too expensive. We're going to go big, but we're going to make LCD good enough. They're not going to make LCD better than OLED,
Yeah.
just good
Well,
enough and brighter
well,
than
and then
OLED.
Fomo, we always talked about with that race to make and I bet you this is part of it, to make these TVs slimmer and they look more the same when they're that size. You can't put your badge on it. You can't make it look like your TV. I'm pretty sure, especially TCL, which loves to put their name everywhere, FOMO.
Yeah.
Like you got to change your lanyard when you go in there. They want to put TCL somewhere. If you have an OLED that's as thin as the S90, there's nowhere to put it.
Yeah.
Oh, Lisa, bye, sweetheart.
Hey, thank you for hanging out. Lisa is our favorite. Not one, but I have to say, she's always here to give us
Everybody
support,
loves her.
and
Yeah.
she keeps the sanity and the love in the community. Thank you, Lisa, for being here. Come back next
Thank you,
time.
Lisa.
Love these streams. I'm sorry I have to leave in a few minutes as I have a class. Oh,
Yeah.
growth mindset.
I gotta leave soon too, my friend. So don't worry.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Let me know when. Let me know when. And hey, is Caleb still in the chat? Is he lurking? Hopefully he
Nah,
still is. Or maybe not. Hopefully he's going to dinner. All right, so let's see. We've been on, oh my gosh, it's almost 2 hours. It's crazy how
Let's do
fun
another.
we have.
Let's get to 2, and then we gotta.
All right, yeah, let's do another 15 minutes. Okay, Sony wants your soul so they can sell it back to you. This reminds me of Bedazzled with Brandon Fraser. I love that
He
movie.
goes, I can't speak Espanol. Hey, I can't speak Espanol.
Oh, puedo hablar español. Who makes ADS Pro? Only BOE? Yes, ADS Pro is BOE's brand name, and they sell it to a whole bunch of people. Yeah, BOE is very proud of their ADS Pro, and I'm very
So,
impressed.
and I hope
I think it's great.
you think FOMO this puts that to bed now that ADS Pro is not a step back?
Oh
It's not
no,
called
yeah,
it
no,
IPS.
yeah. It's definitely good enough. I prefer it actually. If I see a Hisense with it, people ask me, "Hey, this Hisense turns out has ADS Pro. Should I be concerned?" I go, "Nope, absolutely not. Get
Yeah,
it,
because
have fun. Don't even think twice."
they keep calling it IPS, and that's not accurate. So I mean,
It's similar, but it's not. Yeah.
it's their best panel. So everyone's like, "Oh, this thing's a downgrade. That thing's garbage." I'm like, "Wait, it's their best." Okay, whatever you say. So I'm not fighting that narrative this year.
Hey, Clarkette has a great comment. LG needs to make AR glasses with a transparent TV tech. Now, the reason I bring this up is I saw an actual implementation, Brian, where transparent OLED made sense. It was on a Bobcat, those construction vehicles. So you had the shielding, but the shielding was the transparent OLED where you had all the numbers. Like
Oh,
you had
cool.
the elevation, you had the arms, you had the torque. I'm like, that's what I'm talking about. Now you have information you could see, and then depending on the elevation, it tells you how far to move stuff, like where everything is, information. Okay, that was genius. That's an application that I can see transparent OLED being used for. But this other stuff with art and the fish tank and stuff,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
cool, but
that's not why. Yeah,
no, that's cool, but it's not.
definitely not.
If you run that same demo a million times, someone's gonna go, "Can I watch TV?" You're like, "I don't have anything. Sorry, I have a rock falling apart."
Getty wants to know VA panel, Hisense TVs in all sizes. So Getty, unless we ask them directly, we really don't know what is what. But I can tell you the 110-inch is an ADS Pro panel because that's what they used last year and they love it. It is the
So is yours.
premium panel, right? This is their expensive panel. So the best TVs generally have the ADS Pro at Hisense, just so you know, until VA gets to that point, because ADS Pro has surpassed VA panels in terms of Hisense's stack. The 110-inch has it. 98-inch might or might not. I don't know. But we'll ask Hisense for sure if they could break that down for us this year. But last year, that was the case. And while Brian flees to do what he needs to do, let's see what other questions we'll take. Last call for questions. We will be wrapping up in a few minutes, but you guys are awesome. Thank you for coming by. And let me make sure I've covered all the topics I wanted to hit. You guys have so much great comments, and you ended up segueing through all of my topics anyway. Let's see here. Oh, Jennifer Gala mentioned something earlier about the Meta Quest 3. I agree with her. It is amazing. And when I saw it, I was like, wow, if this is what a $1,000, sub $1,000 AR glasses looks like, this is a benchmark that the Apple has to beat to really sell. If it's only barely better than the Quest 3, Apple's in big trouble. So I was just saying, Brian, that the Quest 3, the latest from Meta, Facebook, their Vision Quest or Meta Quest 3 looks amazing for under $1,000. I would get it if it wasn't for the Vision Pro first. I will get the Quest to compare at some point, but when I was at Best Buy doing the demo, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is great. I don't feel dizzy. It moves naturally. I mean, honestly, for the price, I was so tempted, and I was thinking, Apple has a huge hurdle. If they cannot beat the Quest by a bit, now, if the only reason they beat the Quest 3 is because they got productivity, this and that, but content looks similar, Houston, we have a problem. So that's why I see them adding 3D. Now, the Quest, I don't know if it'll show the 3D in the same way. Maybe 3D is what separates it if it's good enough, but definitely the Quest is a great benchmark. For all of you who are curious about this AR thing, I highly recommend trying out the Quest. It's somewhat affordable. If you buy it at Best Buy, you can return it. If you don't like it, go for it. Definitely try it for 30 days and return it if you don't like it. All right, let's see. Low Chapa, thank you for the super chat, my friend. Great channel and conversation. Thank you. Will the A95L still be king of TVs in 2024? Also, is Fomo your real name? Ah, I love that question. So we'll start with that. It is now. It was, it's kind of like, what's the name, right? You're always changing,
One like the marvelous Marvin Hagler.
Right.
Marvelous
it's
Marvin
like
Hagler is like, my name is not
Caesar.
Marvin.
Caesar wasn't his real name, right? Now we call him Caesar. What was his real name? We don't know, but his name is Caesar now. Will the A95L still be the king of TVs in 2024? I don't know if it's king of TVs right now. Between the red flashing lights of death and then classy uncovering a few of the issues with streaming, and the S90C seems to have made a comeback, right? So it is a good TV. So, but officially, it's the reigning king of TVs in 2024 with the G4 and its new processor. Does it address some of the shortcomings? They needed to address DSE, all that vertical banding issues that was a quality control problem at LG Display. Rumor has it they addressed it with this generation of panels. That alone could bring the G4 to tie Sony's QD-OLED from last year. So there's a possibility that the G4 will beat the A95L this year if Sony doesn't release an update to the A95L that takes advantage of the QD-OLED's third gen 3000 nit panel. But that wouldn't be the A95L. It'd be the A95 whatever. So the A95L, I think, is facing a pretty tough challenge from LG G4. Brian, are you predicting the G4 would beat the A95L? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I think it's going to be close.
Yeah, I mean, it's much brighter, and it's the new processor is going to be the big difference. But that's where the A95L is risking being an older TV. It will be at the end. Because remember, it's a long year. It may have a hard time. I don't think the S95. I can't wait to see how the S95C does in the shootout with the matte finish.
Cannot wait.
Can't do a blind test that way. Which one is it? It's the gray one.
Well, it's like, which one's LCD TV?
Yeah, dude. Oh my god.
Now, this is something that everyone's been asking. Do you think LG will finally lower their OLED prices if Hisense brings a very competitive price in larger sizes? So what people don't understand is LG Display is barely selling out a profit. So let's start with LG Display. the source of everyone's OLED, man, they are pricing it just to stay in business, right? They just want to move volume. And no matter how much they lower the price, people aren't buying it because it's still too expensive. Even when LG Display is selling at near cost just to keep people working, right? It's too expensive. And so that takes us to the TV makers themselves, Sony, Samsung Electronics, and LG Electronics. They buy it at the lowest price possible for LG Display. Then they put in their little bit of margin on top. At the end of the day, they are okay. LG Electronics is overpricing. I think they're pricing it too high. But Samsung Electronics is pricing their OLEDs at
Too low.
very competitive prices. And even then, they're not making a lot of money, right? I mean,
No,
it's like
they're
the
not making
OLED
any.
is a loss leader, right? It's a loss leader for them.
If it wasn't for the
So,
phones, you'd have no TVs. Put it that way.
yeah, Hisense is going to kill it on site, and not just Hisense, TCL, and even Sony. The X90L is a huge seller for Sony last year because even though it's not mini LED, it hit the point where image quality was good enough for the price. At $2,000, you're getting the Sony name. It's 85 inches. X90L, it has XR clear, and many of you have this TV at different sizes. You all love it. I have it at 65. I think it's great. I would choose that over the QM8 and the U8K for many people upgrading from an older TV because they appreciate the processing, all that stuff, right? So the X90L is that TV that's going to hurt OLED, and OLED's not going to lower the prices much. Look at the prices the last 3 years. It's budged a little, but between last year, 2022, and 2023, it felt like the prices barely budged at all, right? And this
Yeah.
year, maybe inflation, it'll look like it's slightly cheaper, maybe, but I feel bad for OLED because pricing is what's keeping it out of consumer hands.
Well, anyways, we talked about how expensive LGs were for years. To keep dropping the price has got to kill them because the TVs used to command how much money for the same, for actually a different TV.
Yeah,
X93L.
there you go. I agree. X93L. That's
Yeah, I mean, I've
We don't
compared
care
them. I've
about
seen them.
context. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a better
I've
TV.
seen them. I've seen them compared to each other. The X93 is far better. It's just the X90L is what people wanted. XR Clear. I would say don't worry about XR Clear. X93L looks better.
Well, it's kind of like LG B3 or the S90C. I mean, the B3 has better upscaling, the S90C is such a better TV overall.
Yeah, the
S90C over the
X93 just
B3.
man, and if you, and Rich little poor boy, go on my channel, look at the short videos I have X90 versus X93. It's much better.
Yeah.
Because the X93 is basically last year's X95, which is still better than the X90. It just doesn't have XR clear. I would say now that the prices are cheaper, I would go for the X93.
And just as a correction, it's actually micro OLED. So you're almost right, Uni's writer. It is an OLED, but it's a micro OLED from Sony. But it doesn't mean that Apple won't upgrade it to micro LED in the near future. But its current iteration that was shown off a couple of months back was a micro OLED from Sony. All right, let's catch up with the last super chat, a few more questions, and we're going to end this wonderful Monday, which I love you all. It's so great to be back, isn't it? Hey, Dylan, thanks for the super chat. If you have a question, let me know. I'll look at it. Oh, someone else had a super chat, but I don't know if they had a question, so I may have missed it. So yeah, if
What's
you
up, Dylan?
guys have put out the money but forgot to ask your question, let me know and we will look for it. Or unless you just want to give us money like Techno Dad here, go big or go home. Hammer Joe says, with CES telling us the new thing is 4,000 nits, why should I buy any of the existing TVs now? You're correct, Hammer. If your TV is working,
Very
don't buy
fair
anything.
point.
I cannot agree more.
Yeah.
If your TV is working, honestly, don't ever buy a new TV. If you're happy with your current TV, right? If you're happy, let everyone else suffer from the FOMO. I'm here to stop the FOMO, or as many of you say, I'm here to start the FOMO. The reality is every year CES will bring new, bigger, better every year. And when your TV finally fails, you can then enjoy and be part of the discussion for another
Absolutely.
4 years once you buy the TV. But yeah, you're right. That's no need to buy an existing TV.
And that's why I think it's coming sooner than later because I can't see them cannibalizing their own lineup by saying, hey, 4,000 nits, not coming for 5 years. Buy this. Not buy our
Yes.
weaker TV.
And if you guys forgot, TCL is making an OLED now.
They all have
They
OLEDs.
okay. So TCL owns Japan OLED now. They bought up all their factory production equipment, inkjet printed stuff, but it's inkjet printed OLED, Getty. So it's an RGB direct view OLED, and it's mostly used in cell phones and smartphones. But recently, they're putting it on monitors like the Asus ProArt that I have, or the LG, right? LG also use that on some of their pro grading monitors. But moving forward, TCL is scaling it larger and brighter to make TVs. We don't know when they're coming, but they're only sourcing it as PC monitors today. We're hoping in 2 years it gets bright enough to be on TVs. But
Yeah.
it's formerly Japan OLED, but now owned
Yep.
by TCL CSOT. Yeah.
Well, it's almost like micro LED too. They all have a form of micro LED. You'll never see them though.
Yeah.
Like Hisense has one, TCL has one, Sony has one, LG has one. You're not going to see
Everything's
them.
in development. Yeah. Hey, Dylan, thanks for that super chat. Will this be the year where we see the largest increase in average TV size purchase? Heck yeah, because we've never seen so many affordable 98-inch, 100-inch TVs, right? I mean, we're at a 100-inch TV size now from Hisense. It's not mini LED, but it's 100 inches. You got the $2,000 98-inch S series from TCL. This raises the average size across the board when everything's between $2,000 and $3,000. Wow. And yeah, no, and it's mostly USA though, right? In America, we're able to fit these large TVs in our extra large homes. I don't think this will be a thing in Europe, but in the US, yeah, average TV size is going to hit.
It's a great question because we've had these 100-inch TVs for the last 3 years, except for TCL. You couldn't recommend them because they were so much money. Now it's hard not to recommend them. Getty G-Man's a perfect example with the U8K, which looked fantastic right there with the new TVs. The U8K was still there at 100 inches. It used to be, we can't recommend them because like the X92 was 12 grand. You know, these TVs were still, like QM8 was really expensive, right? So, you know, now we can recommend them.
And the second half of your question, Dylan, Fomo, you're going to hit us with some soundbar this year. So this is why I haven't done any soundbar reviews since my last one, which was the QN990B, 990C this year, 990A before. That soundbar was such a good soundbar, and it continues to drop in price. And I was telling Brian, how can I recommend any other soundbar when this is currently like under $800? Any soundbar, and I'm going to include the Nakamichi Dragon. Nakamichi Dragon is $3,500. Hey, if you have the money, that is the best soundbar. But it's either the Nakamichi Dragon for over $3,000 or the $800 Q990C currently. That's like $769 at Samsung.com. There's no place for any other soundbar. Now, Sonos, I know, has an amazing ecosystem, but that's not immersive movie we're talking about, right? I mean, it's very expensive. And if you just want movie soundbar immersion, you cannot beat the $800 Samsung flagship Q990C. And the 990D is going to be similar, and most likely the price will drop to $800 again by the end of the year. And they should just run with it. Stop adding anything until it's ready to be really upgraded, like a second, third subwoofer. That's the only real upgrades we need. Other than that, Dylan, the $100 soundbars are my recommendation. For $100, you get a basic soundbar and a subwoofer, better than any TV. So you either go with a $100 soundbar subwoofer combination off of Amazon. They all are good enough. Or you go to 800 for the flagship level. That's 90% of the Dragon, the Nakamichi Dragon. That last 10% is not cheap. Dual subwoofers, right? 4 surround, right? But in a small room, man, I'm telling you, that 990C is just killer.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, I'll be covering them. I'll actually be covering them this year because Robert usually recommends that I cover them, but I just due to time I haven't. But now that I have this large studio, I'll be covering them more. So I actually will be covering them from Samsung, LG, and Sony. So I'll be doing more of them.
This will be the last super chat because I think it's a good one to end. For those of you who just joined us, our origin story in 5 minutes each. So we've gone 2 hours, and this is a great way to kind of slow it down and give you an idea of where we came from. So Fomo, Brian, how did you get into the TV influencer space? What's each of your origin story? I'm going to start first, Brian, because my origin story involves you. I was putting together a home theater. I went on YouTube. I did a lot of research. What TV should I get? And I discovered Sony A9G, then the Samsung, at the time, the QM8R. And then the Vizio was also in contention, right? The P Quantum X. They were all similar price. If you can imagine, the Vizio was actually very close in price to the Samsung and the Sony A9G. I didn't know what OLED was, right? I'm like, so I just binged on YouTube. And I hate to say, but it felt like there was a huge gap on the YouTube review space. No one was doing side by sides. All they gave me were, okay, this is a great TV. This is a great TV, and this is a great TV. I'm like, but what's the difference? No one would tell me the difference. No one said, hey, this is better. There was no use case comparisons. There was nothing other than great TV, great TV, great TV. Not helpful, all expensive. And so ultimately, it was the shootout finally that got me to get the A9G. On the shootout, I saw many people. They're like, oh, wow, look, all these influencers. But they also waited for the shootout for the same reason. I'm like, why can't I have a mini shootout as a review? And so I said, you know what? I want to try to start a YouTube channel where I'm doing my little mini shootouts like that one, but at my scale for my needs. And so that's how I started. And then when I started, my first TV was the A9G and I had a Vizio and I wanted to show off this Vizio, right? And then I hit Brian up in a comment, hey, I have this Vizio I'm going to review. And then Brian shouted me out. He's like, hey, you haven't noticed, there's this new guy. He's reviewing the Hisense or the Vizio or whatever. And I was so happy to get the Hisense, right? I was so happy to get the shout out because I only had maybe 3,000 subscribers at the time. And when Brian shouted me out, I was like, my first shout out by a major YouTuber because I was watching Brian. This is amazing, right? And then I was telling my family, like, you know what? One day when I get big enough, Brian will be my first live stream invite. And that was the Best Buy Walk of Shame live stream. That was our first live stream together. It's called the Best Buy Walk of Shame. It's got over 100,000 views, I think. I mean, it's so, and when I saw him on my stream, like, you know what? This guy's so cool. Not only do I want him back, this is someone that I want to work with as a collaborator. And we've been collaborating ever since. And that was like, I think my year 2 in YouTube. When I finished year 1, I brought you on because I felt like I was big enough to have the respect that I could invite you and you would agree to come on. I was afraid, I'm too small. He'll never say yes. So I had to wait until I got big enough, right? And that's how I got started and how I brought Brian in.
Yeah, it's a cool story because we did end up getting together. I've been on the platform the longest out of all of our group. I would be the OG of the group, but I was doing it part-time. I was always a fan of home theater. And then unfortunately in 2016, I had just a string of really defective TVs. And I was on the phone with Samsung and they said, look, you got to film something and send it to us. So I started just filming the TVs with one hand. And those videos are still on my they're my first couple videos of the KS9800. So, and it just gave me, for me, it was a hobby and just being able to talk to you guys. I mean, some of these guys have been with me since then. And I've only recently took it serious. I mean, probably last year with CES, and this year is for me my real kickoff for me doing it professionally. And I have obviously me and Fomo are our boys, and Robert Zone is my guy from Value Electronics. So, I'm really looking to have this be my career. I'm investing a lot in it, and obviously this apartment. Oh, there's Robert right there. What's up, Robert?
Speaking of Robert, there you go.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've already talked to Robert about my initiative this year. I'm going to do a video. It's just something that's our origin stories. I've always loved it. And so for me and Fomo, we talk about this off air. Some of the other influencers I've talked to over the years do not talk about home theater off air. That's all we talk about. And when me and Robert talk about, and I'm very close to Robert and his family, we'll talk dinner and we're talking about it. About home theater. And then Fomo and I, literally, you guys would love this. While we were away, Fomo and I had dinner. Every meal we had together, all we did was talk about what we were going to shoot and what we were doing. So we live it and breathe it and we love it. It's not just a job. It's something that we're passionate about. Same with Robert, of course.
Yeah. And, just speaking of Robert, real quick, Robert, a shout out to Robert for giving us the opportunity to fly there and do our thing. But part of this, and I spoke at length about this with Brian when we first started collaborating. I was telling Brian, one day, Brian, I am going to be good enough to earn Robert's trust to broadcast this shootout. Because I said to Brian, I'm not there yet, but one day Robert's going to say to me, Fomo, I think you're good enough to do the shootout. And that's what I've been building towards with Brian is, can I create an environment, make it entertaining, but informative and engaging to the degree where Robert cannot resist but say, Fomo, I need you at the shootout. And that's always been my dream, to make things so fun. It's, you know, it's not just about TVs. It's about us as a community who enjoy TVs. Like, we all have our different use cases, and I want to make sure everyone feels like their use case is respectable. Like, just because you watch sports and only sports doesn't mean you shouldn't get a really good TV, right? Yes, even those who watch Insignias. I make fun of you all, but the reality is there is a reason to buy an Insignia. There's no shame in that. But at the end of the day, Robert supports that, right? He is so supportive of what we're doing. He goes, you want to have engagement, do it, experiment, do what you want to bring in more people to have the discussion. Robert's not about what can you do to sell the most expensive TV. Never in the discussion.
And I would tell you, Robert is never like that. Robert has a tagline that is so true. He's like, and he's a brilliant person, but he goes, I'm a terrible businessman. Because if it wasn't for Wendy and Leanne, he'd be like, you know what, I should just give it to you. Because he wants you to have and I've been there filming when he's on the phone, and Robert will not steer you to the most expensive. It ends up being that at times because it is the best thing he's offering, but he's very genuine. He's true to life, but he is funny because he still wants everybody to have the best. And I know when he says, I'll give you it for this, I can see Wendy being like, you can't do that. But it is that passionate. And Robert and I and Fomo, we don't, again, over dinner, we talk about this. It's not just it's something we love to do. And for me, it was a passion. Same with Fomo, same with Robert. That's why we're a good team, the three of us. And obviously the shootout is our Super Bowl. And now we have a kickoff that Fomo.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the shootout. Well, a preliminary comparison, Brian.
Yeah, so we ended up having last year we did obviously the Value Electronics shootout, but we started last year with the G3 versus the S95C. We did that. We streamed for about 19 hours. We did 2 days back to back. And Robert not only got us the TVs, but pretty much allowed us to take over the store. And I'll be doing a walkthrough of Value Electronics soon. It's not a huge environment. So when he does have me filming there or has Fomo and I filming there, we are taking over his business in that way.
Oh, yeah.
So it is a pain for him. And I'm going to show you guys the theater that he has, the studio he has for all of the projectors, which is a massive space. But he really does let us have the store, and it's amazing trust, but it's great. So we filmed last year. This year, we're looking for the same thing. That kicked off our season. We were the first ones on the platform to bring you the G3 and the comparisons of the S95C. And we're looking to do that again this year. And Robert gets that for us. So it's already in the plans that Fomo will fly down. He'll be staying in the studio here, and we'll be shooting it. So it's going to be amazing. And anything we do better the next year.
So you guys will get a first peek at the S95D with the matte versus the G4. This head-to-head I'm so excited for because we will put it in the S95D's best use case. Bright lights shining on it. Does it make a case for itself? We'll also test all the different things that we normally test, but it's just going to be so much fun. And when the Sony X95 whatever or Z95 whatever with the new Mini LED 4000 nit, we'll be there because I think that's important. That is the only TV that Sony has said to us is the true successor to the Z9D. Not the backlight master drive disappointment that was the X95K. It is this new TV. It is actually directly using technology that they've saved up because it was just too expensive to put forward until this TV at 4,000 nits. So lots of stuff and last.
Great comment for Moritz Man 300. Fomo and Brian, I hope you can review some new UST projectors soon. I've already spoke to Robert because he has it set up there now where there are probably 8 to 10 theaters he has in his location. I will actually begin to start reviewing new projectors. because I'll be able to review them in store with the best screen versus me bringing it home and using a screen here. So I will be, my person will be doing more sound bars, more speakers, and more projectors at the store. You'll see more of that.
Yep. And I want to just hit this last comment before we go. Stop the phone. Please include us, the viewers, by live voting or polls on the King of TV shootout live stream. So this is what I'm talking about. If you guys have suggestions that we can do, it makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now I know I'm going to keep that in mind because, hey, prediction, what do you think will win? It's this level of voting, having fun that we want because you guys are part of the conversation. I mean, you guys know this. Half of you guys are what makes us laugh. Like Scott Coakley and his $500 faux pas.
Thanks for the nuggets.
Thank you for the nuggets. But for $500 went down to $5. I still love it. I still appreciate it. But that's what I'm talking about. Right? You guys are so crazy. And this year,
we have to do a super cut at the end of the year every year now. I think.
Oh, we have to. You know what? I have to timestamp everything for that. Yep. So, hey, a lot of you guys are lurking. I know there's like 274 of you watching and literally maybe 50 of you actively chatting. You guys know that this community is very loving. Don't be afraid to say hello. Well, we might pick on you for fun and love, but the reality is we appreciate.
So don't be shy. There's no stupid questions, and we don't really have many trolls. Obviously, I mean, I called George Michael a couple of times. That's about it. We don't really have it, and we don't. In our moderating, I don't remove any comments. I can't tell you the last comment I had.
Not anymore. You guys are so cool now.
So it's a safe place. Even if you have a question where you're new, don't be afraid. I mean, that's what we are here to learn. We're all learning from each other. So we want that engagement. That's why we don't ever mind doing these streams. That's why we're so happy you guys show up for our videos and for our streams, really. So we really appreciate it. And we've been killing it so far in January. Oh, we got that thing still. Nice.
What about stuff that doesn't make sense, but it's cool? Sony sent me, and I know they hate it when I call it a bong, but the reality is it's a music center that looks like a light bulb. Oh my gosh, it just turned on. Oh, it turned on too. All right. And it's lit, right? Now it looks like a bong. But, all right, guys. And with that, I'm sure Mara appreciated that. And with that, let's wish you all a good night. And crypto, get me in trouble. And until next time, everyone, stop the FOMO.
Love you guys. Take care.